Holy heck. Oh, 300 today. 300. Technically, I've done a few more, but 300 of my live, Sunday live, whatever you want to call them, today. Oh, my God. That's a lot of shows. What's everybody doing out there? What's everybody doing for New Year's? Happy New Year. Anybody making any New Year's resolutions? Entertainment speculation says I don't look a day over 50. Well, thank you. I'll take that. Oh, man. What's going on? What's going on? We got Italy in the house. That's pretty cool. We got, who else we got here? Matthew. We got John. Just looking at some of the comments and questions. And we're going to dive right in here. But yeah, just wanted to wish everybody Happy New Year. Hope you all have a great New Year's Eve 2023 into 2024. And let's go into 2024 and be nice to one another. That's all I can say. Joe with a super chat coming in hot. What's up? Favorite ethnic cold rainy day food? That's a great question. I like that. Thai is really good for that. Indian can be really good for that. And like I'll be over in England soon, and they've got amazing Indian food there. And one of my favorite, there's lots of great spots, but Dishoom is this like incredible. It's a chain. I mean, there's one in London, there's one in Birmingham, but boy, are they good. It's like super high end, awesome Indian food. And in that cold weather, it's really comforting. I got to say, it's delicious. If you're ever in England, go to a Dishoom. They're kind of all over the place. I think there's one in Newcastle too. They're delicious. I will be doing that when I'm there. Yes, maybe Newcastle will be there for a few days. So looking forward to that. Hey, I appreciate your super chat there, my friend. Thank you very much for that. I see another one coming in there. I'll get to that in a second. But what else we got here? You guys are talking. Brian's here. Hi, Brian. You guys are talking about cats. My niece hurts wondering if I was late. I was a few minutes late, just getting started here. Did Friedman just do a show or something? Did he just stream one? Or is he on now? Did I schedule at the same time? Sorry about that. If so, Dave. Or he might be all through. Okay. I'm going to look down through the chat here. Oh, Alex says, is anybody excited about what Dave Friedman will do with his new AC30 circuit as part of his vintage line? I think it's a great idea. Personally, I think there's not enough great AC30s out there. And I've been telling, well, he and I are friends. And I've talked to him about that forever, as well as other amp manufacturers. It's like, there's a hole there, you know, I mean, for a terrific, there used to be more, I feel like Hayseed and, JMI. I just don't see that many of them out there now. I've got my top hat there, which I love. I was using that yesterday. I'm actually going to use it today on something. I'm doing a video today for I can't really lift it over to show you because it's plugged in here, but the Captor X SE, the brown one that they put out a little while ago. I made some presets for them for that, 10 presets. So I'm going to make a video for them just using my presets so people can hear what I did. I forgot the presets I made for it, actually, and then I went and plugged it in the other day, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I did a kind of a tie your mother down split stereo kind of thing. So the first thing I did was plug in the top hat and try that. I was like, oh, that sounds really good, because you can do this kind of stereo split thing within the Captor software that sounds really great. So I used a 212 open back with blues kind of cabinet for that. So anyway, that'll be coming next week. Oh, here's another one. Video for this coming. I might put it up today. It's done. So maybe I'll just put it up at 2 p.m. today or something. But this is a really, really nice vibe. Strymon's sort of new vibe. They went back to the drawing board, and I liked their old vibe circuit. I thought it was cool. But this one is all new algorithm and stuff where they went back and redesigned it. It sounds awesome. So I had fun playing with it, doing a little track. So there's some videos that are coming. Okay, let's see. Steven says, looking forward to seeing Pete play with the Classic Rock Show in April at Hershey. Yeah, man. That's going to be interesting doing the U.S. We'll see like what attendance is like and stuff, but because it'll be early days for it, and hopefully a bunch of people come out and stuff, and it'll be fun. And if it's an intimate crowd, that's okay too, because we'll build it. Yeah. All righty. There's Ben. Ben says his show is going to be tomorrow. He's got a New Year's special happening, I think. 9 p.m. Eastern. That's fun to ring in the new year. Richard's in Leicester. Good old de Montfort Hall, right? Looking forward to seeing you in January. That's always a fun place to play. Although I always get the dressing room that's all the way upstairs, and it's one of those, there's no elevator in that building. It's a 3-story up and down the stairs, with your suitcase routine. But not a big deal. It's a cool old place where the Beatles played and all kinds of acts that we all know and love. We'll see you there, my friend. Firewolf with a super chat. Thank you, man. Love the show. Looking for some ideas on speakers to go with a MiG 50. That's kind of a bassman. So it just depends. I mean, a good old greenback 212 or something will work great. Or a creamback H75 from Sleshin, that'll work great. Beyond that, it just depends on kind of the flavor you want. It could be cool with something like an open back 410 for a real bassman. In which case I'll recommend Celestians again because I just like them. But either like a 410 with golds, that's one of the best speakers those guys ever made. The 10-inch gold is fantastic. So that'd be fun. And maybe just have the amp going through and kind of tweaked and, because they can be a little messy on the inside. They can sound really good. It's a good amp, but they weren't like the nicest wiring on the inside and stuff. So if you have somebody like a Friedman, go through it and just kind of tweak it and maybe optimize it and make sure it's all super tight, and they can sound fantastic, I think. I remember that and the MiG 60, which was kind of was that like a JCM 800 sort of, I think. Nelson's in Kelowna. What's up, man? Not in Nelson, BC, but in Kelowna. Nelson is not in Nelson. Nelson's in Kelowna. I love Kelowna. It's a nice place. Tone Talk sent you all over here. That's awesome. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I saw just as I was signing in, I was like, uh-oh, did Dave just have a show or is he still on? I wasn't sure. I didn't mean to cut into their time at all, doing it at the strange time. I just, I figured tomorrow, I could have done tomorrow, but it's like, I just figured, no, maybe not. Maybe I'll do today instead and just do it at a different time. That leaves New Year's Eve open for anybody that's got any festivities planned, etc. Yeah. Jim says that you ordered an EDS 1270. Is that the Gibson 12 string? I never have the model number straight on that thing, but I think that's what that is. That's cool. I've always wanted one of those. My favorite tone on Song Remains the Same is when Jimmy Page is playing the double neck. Like, it sounds better than the other guitars to me. The Les Paul and stuff. When he plays the double neck, and when he's playing like the 6-string neck on the double neck, it's a great sound. It's like really, really, check it out and tell me what you think. I remember watching it and going, that's the best sounding guitar. Big old slab of mahogany and all that good stuff. Maybe it's like, aren't the pickups spaced wider on them or something? Maybe it's got a unique middle, because he used to use the middle position all the time. Maybe it's got like a more dramatic middle position or something because of the spacing of the pickups, and that's what I like about it or something. I don't know. It just sounded really cool, and Song Remains the Same. Josh says, I'm about to buy the CLR monitor wedge you reviewed 10 years ago. Do you still recommend? It's the best one I've tried, to be honest. As far as a flat response, full range monitor, I was knocked out with how good it sounded. I thought you could use this as just your primary monitor. Like, it sounded... I was like, why are you guys just in the guitar wedge business? You should be offering these for sound reinforcement, because it's super powerful, super clean, and just sounded to me like, I was like, am I crazy, or does this sound as kind of as clean as like my Atom Studio monitors? Like, the sound instantly translated through the wedge like I hear through my monitors, which I don't always hear. They always sound a little boomier or something, not flat. That wedge sounds flat to me, which what you put into it is what you get out. And the other great thing about it is that they have a huge sweet spot because of the way that the drivers are, and the coaxial with the kind of the way I don't know what they call the type of high-end driver, but it's real wide. Like, so you can walk way off axis and still hear your sound really well. So yeah, I know it ain't cheap, but yeah, I thought they were really good. So Daibajo says, watching channel since 2014. Congrats on 300. Thanks. Yeah, happy to be alive. Every day above ground's a good day. Happy to still be here for 300 of them. Let's go on to 400. Friedman just finished promoting your show. That's nice of him, my old buddy. That's why there's so many of you here early. 325. That's awesome. Dave's show's been doing great lately, which is terrific. You know, we had fun there on our holiday rant last week. Lots of, I mean, they do a great job, so it's no surprise why it does well. Always fun, and lots of knowledge there. Hey, Pete, what repairs do you do yourself? What do you leave for a repair person? I've never done a nut. Like, I've never cut a nut. I did do frets once. I actually bought all the tools and stuff and attempted to do a fret dress. And then I decided that it was way too much work for me and best left to other people. I just didn't have I was like, I thought a couple different things. I thought this is hard work. And I also thought it's time consuming and it's going to take away from me playing and doing other things I should be doing. And this is one of those. I had to learn when I was, when you get you do a lot of things when you're younger that you realize maybe when you're older that you'd be better off paying somebody else to do. Hire somebody great, and then you can spend time doing the thing that you're really good at. And so certain types of guitar repair, I just realized, like, because I do enjoy working on my guitars and setting them up and stuff, but I also enjoy giving it to somebody that's way better at it than me and getting them back and just paying them for that. And in the time that they were working on the guitar, I'm like working on playing or writing a song or doing a video or whatever I'm doing to earn money, as opposed to trying to save the money that I would have saved by doing it myself, not as well. So, but I do most of my, like setups, all the string changing and everything around here. If I need to tweak, I'm not afraid to take necks off and do, I've had the necks off on my old Fenders a million times and stuff to do truss rod adjustments and, setting action, intonation, truss rods and all that stuff. I can do all that. No problem. Although it is interesting, like sometimes when you give a guitar to someone else and they do it and you're like, how did you get this so good? Like it'll be just a little bit better than where I can get it. And I'm always wondering why. What did I do wrong, to not be able to have it feel as good as someone else? Because I feel like it's a pretty not that difficult to set up an electric guitar, and as long as assuming it's got a good frets and stuff like that, the nuts cut right. Yeah. Joe says, I'm interested to see what Friedman would do for the AC that's missing from Morgan's. I know what he's got planned. I don't want to give it away or anything like that, but I will say he's just kind of with these amps, his sort of design philosophy is to keep them very simple and just give you the good stuff, so not a lot of extra bells and whistles, just a really, really, really good optimized circuit, version of old amplifiers that are modern and reliable. I think it's really smart. So take that for what it is. Is the Badger 35 in the AC30 ballpark? I never really felt like the Badgers do what an AC30 does. I think they do their own thing. I think the Badger is its own design. It really has I can imagine the sound of it in my head, and it's a little warmer than an AC30 and more. An AC30 can kind of live on the edge of breakup, I would say, and that's a great part of the sound. But they can also do sparkly cleans. They're also pretty lean, an AC30, whereas a Badger has more low end, I would say. It's a more full, warm sound, but has some of that, like it's cathode bias, EL84. And I think there's something there there's some similarities, but I would say it's a fuller, warmer, distinctly John was trying to make something that was kind of like, almost imagine your perfect Nashville guitar sound. I think that's what he was kind of going for. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but like edge of breakup, is it dirty? Is it clean? I don't know, but it's just good. It's real full. It's cool. There's nothing sticking out about it or edgy, or it's just a real smooth, cool, sit in the track kind of guitar sound. That's kind of what he was going for with those amps, I think. So the 30 to me is the most Marshall-y. Not surprising, maybe because it's got EL34s, but it just seems to have a little more clean headroom and a little more of a rock voice for whatever reason. If somebody was gonna do hard rock or whatever, be like, oh, I need to play a lot of stuff, including like AC/DC and stuff, I'd be like, well, get the 30. The 35 and the 18 are very similar sounding. Just imagine the more headroom and everything with the 35 double power. I think otherwise they're pretty much identical, but I'm not 100% sure about that, but I'm pretty sure. And it's got a more, I would say it's the more Americana sounding amp. Congrats on 300 and happy new year. Thank you, 3J Music. Appreciate that. Thanks for all you do and being one of my biggest inspirations as a YouTuber. Thanks. I appreciate it. YouTuber is such a funny. I remember talking to Leo from Frog Leap Studios, and he was at NAMM. This is probably 5 years ago, and we were driving a car, and he's like talking about when he flew over because he came from Norway, and on the customs form he had to write his occupation or whatever, and he was like, it felt so weird, YouTuber. He wrote YouTuber. He said it's just weird, but I mean, he's a very successful YouTuber, so there you go. Yeah, okay. What else we got here? Let's see. There's a super chat from Arthur. Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate you guys with the super chats and end of the year support. Thanks. Yeah, I need to buy a new bag of coffee for around here. We got old beans in the machine. It's time to fix it up. I bought one on the way here. Thank you. Appreciate the super chat. Any West Coast gigs for CRS? Not right now. No, that'll be maybe in another year. We'll be able to do that, but not yet. Not yet. Not yet. I would love that if there was some California right at the end of the run. Maybe that's always nice. Yeah, if you wind up in LA, that's my favorite. You know, but any chance CRS will come to the Peg? I would love to do a Canadian tour. I think it would do great, and like add some obvious April Wine, Kim Mitchell. Maybe Kim would come sit in. That'd be amazing. You know, the obvious awesome Canadian songs. So I hope so. You know, I hope we can do that. What's the rig going to be? It's the same rig that I took out with Nick, basically. So it's going to be the 2 PT100s and 2 412s, which I'm really excited about. I'm so happy with it. Same pedal board, all the effects in parallel. I'm taking not that many guitars, 5 or 6, for the different tunings and different styles of things, but I'm trying to keep it pretty chill, you know, as far as the number of instruments that I'm taking and stuff. So I'll have the Aura out. I'll have my signatures. I'll have an SG. I'll have a Van Halen guitar, stuff like that. Taylor acoustic. There's a ridiculous story about Van Halen and Limp Bizkit jamming together. Ever heard if it's true? I do believe it is true. I think that it's all true the way that I've heard it. From what I know, I mean, it's probably obviously some embellishment going on, but I've heard that it is true. I'll leave it up to you to tell the story in the chat if you want to. I won't recount it here. Marshall has some amazing cleans as well. My GMP 100-watt clean is a beast, not high gain amp at all, especially on the lower input. That's basically the like the low gain input is the sleeper, you know, and it's a great sound. I think that's what Billy Corgan used. He'd load a JCM 800 or a JMP master volume with KT88s and then use the low gain input with the big muff going in there. And that was that early Smashing Pumpkins tone. That was really cool. Great pedal amp on the low gain. Great to catch you live, or glad to catch you live. Thanks for the super chat, Aaron. Appreciate it. See you with CRS in March. Awesome. You should have Matt Scannell from Vertical Horizon as a guest. I would love that. He's I did do a Tim and Pete show with Matt. So there is that. If you haven't seen it, it's from many years ago, but probably 2016 or something like that. Maybe. Yeah, something like that. And so check out that if you haven't seen it. But I'd love to have him on sometime. He's a major guitar geek and amp geek. He loves old Marshalls and stuff. Have you mostly gigged on switchers? Trying out dirty platform, rolled off cleans, beautiful, not always loud enough. I know what you mean. Trying out a comp in the loop so far so good, but haven't tried it gig volume. Yeah, yeah, it's a different sound. You know, the rolled off clean. It's the more Eddie Van Halen, more classic rock, Angus Young when he rolls down, you know, to play Quieter Passage, you know, think of the beginning of For Those About to Rock or something, rolled down. You know what I mean? It's a different sound, you know, and ain't that crystalline, you know, sparkly thing that you can get out of a channel switcher, or if you're A-being 2 amps. I guess that's one way you could go. You could try a compressor in the loop, roll your guitar volume down, and turn on the compressor while you're rolling down. You might get, you know, that's one way to go. See if it sounds good. It's kind of for a different style. I mean, it's really like a little more Led Zeppelin or, you know, Jimmy Page rolling down. You know, my friend Brian Ray, that's the way he plays with McCartney. He's got an amp that's basically set, edgy, crunchy, hits it with fuzzes and drives, and then he'll roll down for cleans. And I was listening to a live McCartney with him playing like the song Band on the Run, and he's playing the kind of cleaner part on that, and then, you know, rolling up in the probably hitting a pedal. But it's never super clean, you know. There's always a little bit of grit to it. So anyways, yeah, I mainly do channel switchers, I guess, for probably most of my career, although I have done, like with Chris Cornell, I was using 3 amps for this very reason. And that's when John Suhr came to me and said, let me try and make you an amp. And we did the PT100 because I was using a 5150 for the drive sound. I wasn't like super digging the clean channel on it. So I would use it divided by 13, either an FTR 37 or a AC30 style one for my clean. And then I would go from that over to the 5150, or sometimes I used a Comet, or sometimes I used all 3 actually. And the Comet I would just kick in for leads with the 5150. It was a wacky rig. It was a lot of cabinets, 3 cabinets, 3 heads, and switching. And all the effects were in front. So I used minimal delay and reverb on the dirties in that rig. But it was a good sounding rig, I must say, A being the 3 amps. And I mean, if I go back and I listen to the sounds I had on Say Hello to Heaven and songs like that, it sounded, or Black Hole Sun, you know, for the cleaner parts, it sounded really cool coming out of that AC30 style. Divided by, it was neat. This is a different way to go, you know. Oh, this is interesting. Just heard King's X doing a show in Toronto in April. That's cool. Man, I'd love to see those guys in Canada. That's awesome. I love King's X. So great. What are my thoughts on the Tone Zone and Air Norton? You know, I don't really know that much about them, but I do have that EVH, you know, Ernie Ball here, and it's kind of got that going on. I think they're sort of similar pickups, and the pickups in that guitar are great. So really cool. So let's see, just kind of picking through the random chats here. Steven says, last year you liked an espresso machine that you began using. I wonder if it's just my Nespresso, my Verturo. It's not fancy. I mean, it's one of those Verturo capsule machines, but I do like it and I use it all the time. I mean, I have about 5,000 capsules at this point to return to them to get recycled. So I guess I like it. It's not like, you know, it's not like an amazing, you know, I'll still go out and buy one of these. I generally have one in the morning on that machine. That gets me started. And then I go out and I buy a $6.50 one somewhere else. Which is why you guys send me the super chats. Because otherwise I can't think. Oh my goodness. Nelson says, we are here from Tone Talk. I'm glad you're here. That's awesome. Thanks for being here. Oh, yeah. Your Mercurial Labs Spark demo riffing was album worthy. Thanks. I need to go back and listen to that. It's almost time to make another record. So I better go back and find some jams to pull from, like I did for Pete Thorn too. I appreciate that. Coax or concentric is nice because all the frequencies are time and phase aligned, and it makes for a nice transparent sound. That's what now we're talking about the full range flat response monitors. That's what I noticed about that monitor, was it sounded very clear, loud, and nothing extra that you wouldn't want, and nothing missing. It just sounded right. Love that. Pete had a massive rant on Dave's show. Did I really? I don't think it was massive. It was just honest. We were talking about on Dave's show, mainly the rant that I had was about bands and how I just want bands to play at least, it doesn't have to be 2 amps necessarily, but I think the most important thing is not to go direct. That was my assertion, that I've come around to believing that everybody going direct in rock setting is anti-rock. That it doesn't really, it sounds like a reasonable facsimile of rock, a simulation of rock. But the rock that we all grew up with was amps. Each player, bass, guitar, two guitars, whatever, everybody having their own little rig, and Dave mentioned, I forgot about this, that even singers before if you were 13 years old, you probably didn't have a PA. You probably had a guitar amp that the singer was plugging a microphone into with an impedance mismatch and singing through a deluxe reverb or something. Yeah, just the sound of each player having an individual little rig with speakers, and then that being the core sound, and then the PA was extra, that was just on top of that, and that evolves into, now you got a bigger amp, and it was your Marshall stack or your AC30 or whatever, and your select pedals that you had, and that was your rig, and the sound of a band on stage with speakers on stage is part of the whole thing that we shouldn't be eliminating, through going direct. I think it. So if you've got a Kemper or an Axe Effects or something, use the output to go to a power amp and a cabinet at least. And it just sounds like rock then. And without that, there's something like, even if the stage volume is quite reasonable and everything and whatever, just settling in around the drums with your own speakers and stuff is a major component of what makes a band sound like a band. When everything goes direct, first of all, you're taking away all that sound on stage. Now it feels like there's a hole to me. It doesn't feel better, and the sound guys are like, it's better because I could put you in the PA. Then it's not better, especially not with a PA that's totally flowing and little front fills and tiny little speakers and stuff. It sounds like there's a big hole in the middle. And then there's if you're really lucky and they're a great sound guy, it'll sound like there's a CD playing through the PA, like the music that they play before the show. It doesn't have the same impact and power, and it just sounds weird, and it's not better. I'll die on that, hill. It's there's something wrong with it, So I guess that's a massive rant. But Mike says he's got to run, but he gave me a super chat. Thanks, man. Thanks for all you do. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, man. Have a great day. Appreciate it. Thanks for the chat, or super chat and the chat. Would you ever do any divided by 13 videos? Fred still builds amazing amps. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's really his thing, I have some, maybe I should just make a video for him for old time's sake, because I have a few of his amps, and, it'd be fun to do. I've got them from OG back in the day. Like, I've got one of the early FTR 37s that, probably got in 2003. Yeah, something like that. So it's, at this point, it's 20 years old and vintage practically. Nice sounding amp. I always like the FTR. It's basically like a great big deluxe reverb with a little bit of mods. Has a great sound through a 412 or open back cabinet. And then the other one was a nice AC30, basically what's the other one I have? The RSA 31, I think it's called. And then I also still have his version of a JMP, kind of, master volume 100 watt. And then that one I never really bonded with, and I was going to have some mods done to it, and it's been out at Sirs for it's been out at Sirs for over 10 years. And now I tell John, I joke about it, because John was like, let me try a couple things on it, and I joke with John about it now, because I'm like, no, don't give it back. I just want to hassle you about it. It's more fun to every year or so. Well, you know what? I need to put something in the fridge here. It's going to go bad. I got some food here. Just hold that thought and imagine an amp sitting in a repair place for 10 years. It's not a repair place, it's Sir, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I left it out there, and he kind of forgot about it, and I kind of forgot about it, and that's the way it goes sometimes. Okay. geez. Let's see. It's a bunch of super chats up there. You guys are too kind. Thank you all. Appreciate you. Yeah, I'm glad I did this on the Saturday. I was considering not doing it at all, but I'm having fun. I'm amped up, caffeined up, and you're all here, and I'm here, and it's fantastic. Good to be alive. Badger 35 is more Marshall, in my opinion. It's excellent. You think it's more Marshall than the 18? I mean, with pedal, they're great pedal amps. I think the 30 is more Marshall, just to me, and I think that the 18 and the 35 are just really their own thing. But that's interesting. Arthur says, see, I don't know anything about the circuit. I actually don't know anything about the Badgers at all. I know much more about amps now and what to ask about them than I did when the Badgers came out. I didn't really understand the difference between Fender and Marshall circuits and the layout and the sort of topology of the circuit back then. So I never asked. So yeah, I've never had I guess I should just ask and be like, what is going on with these? But you're saying has a different circuit, actually leans more on the Fender tweedish thing. Interesting. But some tweeds are kind of Marshall, right? I mean, like with the way the phase inverters, the long tail phase inverter and all that stuff, right? So is there anything, or is it sort of just its own thing? I don't know. Maybe you can tell me more, Arthur. I am interested. Just downloaded the Morgan Suite, and there are lots of usable presets. Pete, you did a great job on your presets. Thanks. Yeah, I did. I gave them, I don't know how many, 10 maybe? 5? Maybe it's 5. Not that many, but I did a few. And good sounding plugin. It's hard to find AC30 plugins actually, and so, or that Vox kind of sound. So the Morgan is a welcome addition, I would say, You should test a Jubilee 20 watt. It's incredible. If they asked me to, I would. Marshall, they've occasionally hit me up to do things recently. So one of them was the new JTM 20, the little baby JTM 45, and I like doing that stuff for them. I like Marshall. I mean, I like the the Studio Vintage. I think it's a terrific little amp, and I'd be happy to do more for them because that's where we all started. I mean, for me, What would be the best boost drive into the front of the Friedman PT20? That's the Taco. It depends. I think he would say his own Golden Pearl, which would be good. I mean, I love a Klon, a Screamer, but that amp, man, it's got a lot of gain already. Like, I don't know if you need anything, to be honest, and I'm sure Dave would say that too. If you want to run it cleaner and then hit it with something, my favorite is just always the Klon, just works for me. But I would say Klon, good Screamer with the gain down and the volume up. Any of those should kind of do it. Okay. Let's see. Arthur says, I remember when Dustin, Jack, and Phil X had over 40 million views on Fretted Americana. I guess that's a testament to Phil's personality and his, that he did. Those videos were really cool, and it was early days, and there was an honesty and an integrity to it, and they were just fun, the way that his wild personality and showing off cool guitars, what he would just play on them off the top of his head with there was no fixing and it was a lot of honesty in it. And it was just cool, so I remember those, I should do a reunion, make a few. It was cool. But Brian says, everyone throw Pete some likes for 300 shows, please. Appreciate that. Jesse Smith is currently doing a live gig on YouTube. Oh, see, I'm colliding with everybody. Jesse's gigs, he's one of the singers that does Classic Rock Show, and he's had a fair amount of success this year singing on the UK version of Dancing with the Stars. So he's getting to be better known over there, I would say, from his TV fame. So we'll see. He'll probably have lots of fans that come out this year to the CRS gigs. But yeah, he's been doing a solo tour, and it looks like there's quite a few people at the gigs. That's nice, well attended. He goes and drives around England in his own car, and goes and plays solo gigs and keys and guitar and sings and stuff. So it's awesome. He's a great cat, very talented singer. You taught me how to play Eruption 14 years ago. Thanks, Roberto. Appreciate that. Thanks for the super chat. Yeah, man. Danilo says, Happy New Year. Thank you. Appreciate it. Just question, SL68 Mark II or SL67? If you don't need that extra volume and kind of girth or like, authority of the 100 watt, if you're going to kind of run it a little lower anyway, I would just go 67. It's a little smaller package. It's a little lighter. But I do love the 68. And if you need to go bold or whatever, so some people just like the 100 watt thing versus the 50. It's slightly less furry, less compressed, a little more open, a little more bold, but it's very subtle. These are little things, and probably 3 dB different in volume. But I run my 100, in the Variac setting all the time. So, just depends. Do you still use your 500 series preamps compressors? I'm using one right now. You're hearing me talk through it, actually. So I've got DBX 560 mic pre dedicated for this purpose. This mic is going into it's a SM7 from Shure, the classic, radio announcer mic. Also works great for guitars and other things, but this lives here for this purpose, for doing these live streams. This is running right into the 560, and then I'm running it into my UA interface. So that's in my 500 series rack, and then I'm running it into my UA interface, and then I've got a Manley Vox box on the channel to add some compression, a little bit of EQ, and pump it up a little bit, because these mics are quite low in output. Dave Friedman uses the same mic, right? And he's got one of those cloud lifter things, and it's kind of like a little inline preamp, and I would like to get one of those maybe. But that said, it sounds fine, right? Probably okay. Let me know. Does it sound like there's a lot of noise or anything? I don't think so. I think it's probably fine. I don't listen to it. I can't hear it. I can only see that there's good, healthy level. I think it probably sounds pretty good. Okay. I need to move through the chat a little faster here. I think I'm going a little too slow. So considering an Astro 20 or little sister, watch your Astro 20 video. I'm a home gamer and headphone jack is a huge plus. Astro 20 seems complex from all the videos. It's more complicated than the little sister, and the headphone jack would be something that if you want, it's got it, and the other one doesn't. So, but I would say it's a little more Soldano in tone and a little less Marshall than the little sister. So decide the sound, but also the feature set you want. It sounds like if the headphone thing's a big deal, it's not really complicated at all. There's nothing you need to do. You don't ever need to hook it up to the software or anything like that. You can literally just plug it in, and then the gain, what do they call it? Galaxies. It's just like 3 different gain levels, in the different distortion modes that you can pick from. So less gain, medium gain, more gain. And then, you just plug in your headphones, and the IRs and stuff are already on there. I guess, you won't need to, it's just, it's, as far as the tech goes, it's pretty simple. Like, as far as modern stuff goes, it's not going to confuse you, I don't think, or be overwhelming. If you just spend probably, an hour or 2 with it, you'll probably have it all figured out, I would say. Download the little software package, plug in the USB, and just, it's a small learning curve, I would say, honestly. But the little sister might be all you need too, if you just want to get a little cabinet and plug that in. If you want a more Zeppelin-esque kind of, or AC/DC or something, Marshall tone, the little sister is probably the way to go. It's going to be a little smoother top end and a little less big, bold, grainy. Not grainy, but I said that sounds like a bad word. I don't mean it that way. The Soldano sound to me is always a bigger, bolder, crunchy, grainy, but not, it's like hard, what do I say? Coarse grain distortion instead of fine grain distortion. A little bit different voice too, like less aggressive upper mids and a little more big all the way through. Oh, okay. What else we got here? Let's see. Todd says thanks, or congrats, he says, on 300 episodes. I appreciate that. Thank you, man. Thanks for being here. Johnny says almost 400 people online. We got 423 as far as I can see right now. That's fantastic. Great to have you all here. Have you ever used the Digitech Band Creator Looper pedal? I know the thing you mean. I've seen it. It's kind of amazing. This is this pedal that basically you can play something into it and then it kind of helps you create a song, comes up with a drum part and bass. It's kind of amazing. I don't know. I haven't thought about that thing for a few years because that was 5 years ago or something, at least that came out, maybe more. Yeah. Here's some super chats. Completely lusting after your Sir signature and graphite metallic. You really picked some killer colors. Thank you. And thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. Yeah, I love the colors, and I'm always trying to come up with colors that are just right. Like maybe I'm never going to do one in hot pink or whatever, but I'm trying to come up with stuff that always has a little bit of bling. I love the garnet red and the ocean turquoise. And then so we talked about, the colors, and I was like, well, we should probably do something black because, my original guitar, the double humbucker, black, but with the red back and the binding. So that's the bling on that. It's like you kind of catch the red on the sides and stuff. And I loved that. But with this one, because it's a solid color, I was like, well, we can't just do black or it's just going to be black. That's not going to be that exciting. So what do we do? And then I saw on the Sir site a telly or something they had made in that graphite metallic color. And I thought, that'll look really good with a black pick guard and new ring and all that. The window cover pickup and all that. It should look great. So I love it too. Yeah, thank you. Here's on that note, John says, bought your Sig HH guitar in Maine. Love it. Awesome. Thank you. Also bonded with the pick that came with the case candy. Yeah, I think I did a run. Oh yeah, so they're Dunlop. You're asking about what kind of picks they are. They're Dunlop and they're Ultex. So if you want to get more, it's a 73 Ultex. You can get them in black or the kind of weird yellow that they originally came in. I bonded with that pick years ago, and it's just become my thing. Like I use others sometimes. I really like the Van Halen picks for some things, especially playing Van Halen. These are 60 millimeter nylon, and they just work for that stuff. And I like them for other things too. They're really nice on acoustic guitar. I've come around to sort of thinking like the thin thing. He had something going on there. It was, thin picks for rock always seems to be sort of antithesis of what you might think. But I guess Eddie was like that, but I like them. But the 73 Ultex is a great all-round pick that I can use for all kinds of different stuff. And they wear, they do get an edge on them, and then they become unpleasant to play. But they last a lot longer than like many other sort of picks that I've tried. So yeah. So anyway, thanks for getting the guitar. I appreciate that. And I hope it serves you well for a long time. Johnny says, I was told to turn down at my last gig by the sound guy before we even started. Yeah, that happens a lot. I mean, that happens to all of us, I think. And my request is always like, can you wait until we're all playing together? Which seems like a reasonable request, because you haven't even heard the snare drum yet. And everything sounds loud when you first get in a room, right? And that's always my, if they're like, let me hear some guitar, and you play, they're like, that's going to be way too loud. And it's like, can you just wait? Because I think, respectfully, your perception might be skewed by the fact that you haven't heard any of the other instruments, including the bass, which is going to band mask the low end, the cymbals, which is going to eat up the top end. And maybe that guitar that sounds loud right now is going to just sit fine. Or not. It might be too loud, but they should always wait, until everybody's playing. That's my assertion, unless it's like totally ridiculous. If you came in with a Plexi and it was, nobody, even back in the 70s, I don't think people liked 100-watt Marshalls and clubs and stuff. And it was always an issue. It was part of why Eddie started using a Variac to turn down, so, and it does do that. Generally speaking, I mean, sometimes you got to play little mental games by just saying, yeah, okay, no problem. Then you don't. And then you just maybe turn down the volume on your guitar, and then, but just when the whole band is playing, if they're like, you're still too loud, and go, okay, I like to go out and hear for myself out front, I feel like I've earned that right after all these years. You go out and I'm going to go out and listen. And it's always amazing to me too, because I sound like I don't get along with sound guys. I usually do, actually, as long as they're reasonable and good. So when I go up front and it sounds like the PA is not on, that's when I'm really like, really? Like, what are you doing with it? Like, why is it so quiet? Or, whatever. I mean, it's like, are you using, you got all this shit here, like turn it on. Look at that. It doesn't sound like it's working. I know what a PA sounds like when it's on. That doesn't sound like it. I don't know. God, I'm grumpy. Yeah. You got a lot more power than I do, you know. 50,000 watts up there of juice, and I got my little amp up here. My friend Corky James, who I used to play with, he's an experienced guitar player. You know, he played on a lot of the, like he's playing guitar on Complicated by Avril Lavigne. He did a lot of sessions back in the day and still does, you know, and stuff. He's a great guitar player. And we played in bands together and stuff. And I remember doing this band with a girl named Laura Harding, songwriter, that we both used to play guitar. And he used to bring a matchless combo, and it was a 15 watt or 18 watt or something like that, you know. And the sound guy in some of the clubs would be like, "Guitar's too loud." And he's a great guitar player, and he knows how to use his volume and, you know, pedals. And he'd be like, "It's 15 watts. How can it be too loud? You've got the PA," like, you know. And he had a point. I always felt like, you know, with a guy like that and that kind of experience, it's always like, you know, the people are going to come in the room. They're going to fill up. There's going to be a couple hundred people in here, or 80 people or whatever would come to a club. Okay, 40 people, however many people would be there. But whatever, in a club, they're going to come in. They're all going to be drinking. They're all going to be talking. They're going to be making noise and stuff. The band's going to be playing harder, the drummer and everything. And you know what? That matchless is going to sound just fine. You know, it's not something to make a point over. But, you know, in the quiet of sound check and everything, when they always say, it's just like, it's an endless battle. I'll go to my grave, like, I'll be on my deathbed, just, "They always tell me to turn down. I want to play louder. I can't." What? I can't hear you. Yeah. Anyways, what do I think of the UA Effects Lion? It's good. You heard it in my video. If you watched my little video clip, that video got more views than a lot of things I've done recently. It's at least 350K or something like that on, I think it got almost 100 on, it's 85 or something on YouTube, the short. And then on Reels, it's got 350 or something like that. But anyway, I played the Mean Street solo through it, and it's killer, man. Great, you know, it's just fun. I sometimes think that we, you know, like, oh, is this going to be the be all and the end all? Replace amps, like this, that, like, you know, should I get rid of my stuff? Can't we just sort of like look at it like, it's kind of amazing that it's not inexpensive, but it might be $399. I'm not sure, but it's like, can't we just look at it like, it's amazing you can buy a thing that just does what this does, which is like, you can get so close to the Van Halen sound out of this little box. You know, if we would have had this in like 1985, we all would have been freaking out, you know, that you could get something that small that you could plug into a headphones or a full range speaker and just sound like that, you know. Now, one thing I haven't tried that I really actually want to try is disabling the IRs and plugging it into a power amp in a cabinet. I haven't tried that yet, but gotta give it a go. But it's just, I mean, the cranked plexi thing, I mean, just for that, it's like pretty awesome. I mean, you can see the way I had it set here. The mids and treble are on 10. Volume 1 is on 10. Obviously, doing the Van Halen thing. Oh, yeah. Daryl says, up close stage amps are the best at a concert. Yeah, man. I mean, it sucks without it, you know? Like, when you're up close and there's none of that, because they don't provide the proper front fills and stuff. And there's not that is not something that they have considered or have licked yet. Proper front fills and when you're going to have a quiet stage, a you know, silent stage or whatever, there's nothing worse than paying for a ticket and being in the second or third row, and then all you can hear is the acoustic snare drum off the stage and some reverberation of the PA echoing around behind you. That's not fun, you know. It used to be, at least when you went to it, you know, we're talking about two things here. We're talking about flowing PA as opposed to stacked. You know, all the PA used to be like on either side of the stage stacked up, right? So it was like you're kind of, and then some of it was angled like this. So you got that, like if you were sitting front row center, you know, you heard the PA, and it was powerful, and it was those old box PAs, and it was different. Now it's line arrays way up here, and they can be very good sounding and clean and sort of almost punishing with their volume, but you need to be back from them, I find. You know, they're so high all the time. And you don't, and then the subs are down here on the floor. So that doesn't help with anything above, you know, 250 hertz probably. It's just all the clarity of the guitar and everything's all sitting up here, and it's blowing out that way. There's no there's no power anymore, in that. So there's the double thing of the way the PA is situated now in most places, and nothing on stage to fill in the middle if you're not getting that. And it's just weird. I don't know. Plus, it's just the physical thing of, I don't mean to repeat Dave's show here, but we do have 480 people. It must be interesting in some regard. There's just the physical thing of everybody having their own little rig on stage and then miking that, and there's bleed. And, I kind of, I'm like, maybe bleed's good is sort of where I'm at now. Like a little bit of that, everything getting into everything, and then it all kind of makes the sound, and that moving air thing. Yeah, and everybody having a little rig. There's something about Daniel Lanois is a great producer and smart guy. He used to reamp things or pump things back out through a PA and then mic that in a big room all the time. I mean, I heard on records, U2 and different things he was doing. He would sort of, to get the sound of the thing coming out of the PA in the room and everything. So that's interesting to me. Kind of the. Not just a direct sound or whatever, but more of the blend of it with an ambient environment. And that's kind of what happens when you got a band in a room with, everybody with their own rig. Okay. Dory says, congratulations on show 300. We look forward to your show. Thanks. I love being here too. It's really fun. So not a rant, just the truth. We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. And there's a super chat from Andy. Coffee for you. Thanks. Will you be giving away any new CRS tracks you're working on? I thought about doing that. I've been working on a lot of stuff, and they're so fun, but I don't want to give away the songs, and it kind of sucks because I want to show some of the cool tones and stuff. But maybe what I'll do is just make a couple quick videos and then save them until after the first show, and then I'll put them up on YouTube and stuff as I'm going over the parts here and stuff, because I've been learning a lot of cool, like really fun solos and tones and stuff. That one song in particular is like a tour de force of guitar sounds. It's really fun. I can't tell you which one it is, but maybe you can guess by that description. Really, really fun. I had to work hard on programming and stuff, and I think I have it like really good. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun show this year. It's a little less sleepy this year. Not that it was sleepy last year, but there was a little more ballads, which are great. I mean, and a lot of people like that part of the but it's a little more, the show's just a proper rock show this year. I feel like even a little more than usual. So for those that have seen CRS, if you want to rock, come to the show. On that note, amps are the only way to rock, and I will have amps there. What did you think of the EVH board that Andy Wood and friends put together? I only saw a little bit of it. I think it's interesting. And Andy worked super hard on it. And it was good. I think, I from what I understand, there's no dry in the outside cabinets. And that would be the only thing that would, that, and also I think the way that he's got it configured is he's pitching the delay, that the delay is getting pitched. So there's just two little things I would change, because I'm really picky about all that stuff. But if you want to do the exact Van Halen thing, there's just two little things. Actually, and he could, very easily with the setup that he's got, I think he could actually make a couple little tweaks to that board, and it would be just right. And it would be minor stuff that he would have to do in order to kind of change those two things. But I haven't watched the full video yet and stuff, so I'll have to go back and watch it. But so one of the main things you get out of like having the dry and the outside cabs, but also the effects in true parallel, the H3000, as well as the delays. I wouldn't have known it had I not tried it, but the way that I'm doing it with a parallel mixer now is there's this clarity to it. When you're not running the effects in series and stuff, there's a clarity that you get out of the separate delay and pitch and dry signal, as well as an equal amount of dry in the outside cabs as the middle cab. And when you do that, you're like, oh, you can kind of pile the effects on a little bit, and there's still this clarity to it, So that's the only thing I'll say. But I mean, he's having fun with it, and Andy's a lovely guy. I love him, and he's obviously put a lot of thought and time and effort, and he has a good time with this stuff. He's a ridiculous guitar player, and always fun. It's always good to see him. I actually haven't seen him for quite a while, but. Anyways, what do we got here? Nelson says, oh, nothing but super chat. Thank you for the super chat up there in Canada. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. Ebarge says, good to have stage volume for most rock shows. Agreed. When you get to really heavy acts, though, the super high gain gets too loud for the stage volume set on kill. Well, it's all a balance. I mean, I think you can. I mean, look, I played the Deftones guitar player. I got to play his rig when he was rehearsing close to here not that long ago because I was over helping him with some stuff. He uses a Helix into Fryat power amps and then 412s, and it's not quiet. And it sounds great. And it's a modeler. So he's doing the modeling thing. I'm not sure if he's taking IRs to the PA or if they're miking the cabs or not. But the point being, he's got real cabs up there, and boy, is it powerful and cool sounding, So, and that's what Offspring's doing too. They've got, Axe effects and power amps and cabs, and they mic the cabs, and that works. So, even with the modelers, they got some stage volume going stuff. It's not quiet. I went a while ago and helped Dexter and Noodles and work with them a little bit on guitar tones and stuff like that, and tweaked. Dexter liked it at a certain point, whereas when he was playing, it was like, seems like it needs to come up a bit, and I was like, I agree. And as soon as he hit the point where I was like, no, that feels good, he was like, yeah, that's about right, and it ain't quiet. It's like it's right in there with the drums, and the bass player's got an SVT, and it's like, it sounds just great. It's like, yeah, it's good to know that even with modelers, everybody's feeling that he's got full wedges in the in-ears and then two 412s behind him pushing the guitar out, and it's just like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, so okay, let's see what else we got. Jeff says, congratulations on 300 shows. Thank you. Talking of vocals through a guitar amp, a friend of mine has an old Watkins Joker 3 inputs bass vocal guitar. Those are crazy, those cool, and the built-in tape echo. Yeah, so cool. That's so awesome. What a fun rig. Have you used many Fryat amps? No, but I have my power station here. I played an old Pitbull, an old VHT. It was a Pitbull 50CL. I remember that amp around 2000, like over 20 years ago. That amp sounded killer. It had a graphic EQ, and through I think they were Eminence made proprietary speakers, PR50s or something they were called, I think. 212 cabinet. I wanted that amp. I mean, it had a great, unique rock sound that was, to me, very just like, I was in a band at the time, and I was looking for the right amp for that band, and it seemed like it would have been great. I didn't get it for some reason. I don't know why, but I was very close, and I did like it a lot. That 50CL was like, that is just a great rock sound, So, yeah. Here's a funny question. Are you going to get a haircut before? No, I'm just starting to like it. It's like, now I want it to grow like another 3 inches at least. So it's just getting cool is where I'm at on it. It's funny. Somebody put a shitty comment on one of my videos the other day. It was like, what's the matter with you? Like, all this, money you make, like, how do you know how much money I make? But all this money you make doing stuff like it's so weird, right out of the gate, weird. But, and then you can't even afford a haircut. It's like, no, I'm in that mid-growth stage right now, trying to be supportive. I'm trying to, I have a vision here. Just work with me. Okay. What do I think of the Walrus Audio Stereo Ambient Reverb? Haven't tried it. I would love to. Slower. How do you say that? Slower Stereo Ambient Reverb. Would love to try it because Walrus stuff's great, but sadly, I haven't had a chance to check it out. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Have you settled on one particular brand and gauge of strings? Man, I'm using 9s. I've gone to 9 to 42, good old 9s, and I'm using the Ernie Ball. Oh shit! What are the new ones that they supposedly that you can't break? It's not the regular Slinkies. They're the new. Come on, somebody help me out here. Paradigm. That's what they're called. I almost had to go look for a set. The Paradigm, Ernie Balls, 9s. I just gave up. I was like, I don't know, 9.5s. So forget it. I'm just going to go 9s. I feel like I'm getting older. I deserve it. I want life to be easier, not harder. And they sound great. I didn't even notice when I went to them compared to the, besides the slightly easier bending. It's slight going from 9.5s to 9s. It's a minor difference. But anyways, did you ever get a chance to listen to my old band, April 6th? I'm sorry, Joe, I haven't. Dan from Hoobastank got assigned. Oh, cool. I remember Hoobastank, 2003, of course, because I was in 40-Foot Echo back then, and Hoobastank was sort of a similar band, I guess. I got to check it out. I'm sorry I haven't. Thank you for the super chat. Don't be mad at me. I'm surprised more Marshall players don't use a rat style pedal in front, like a rat. Because you're back. You're back for more. Sorry, I had to. You spelled it that way. I've tried them all, and a rat circuit just does something extra special. Doesn't Nuno like the rat? I think he's like a rat guy. How do you set it? Like, how do you set the controls? I always wonder that, you know? How do you like it as in front of a Marshall? Because I find them to be quite gainy, a rat. And that sounds like it'd be a lot of gain to me. But, you know, my idea of a pedal in front of a Marshall is a slight boost, you know? Have you ever played Ian Thornley's signature Strat? No. I have played his Jazzmaster looking one, though. Had an interesting neck. Kind of a V, isn't it? I think, as I remember. And it was quite different than, you know, the norm, I would say. Thanks for a great year of information, including the Unit 67. Great pedal, right? I love it. I use mine all the time. It's a secret weapon using on this tour. And it's my kind of like kick it in when you need more. And I'm also using it as a pretty major part of a tone on one song for Classic Rock Show coming up. Does the Friedman JEL 20 have more gain than the Pink Taco? No, I would say not. It's a different, kind of a different voice, I think. I would say the JEL 20 is maybe a little more, not dark, but like a little more just meaty Marshall kind of thing. And then the PT 20 struck me as like, this thing's a little Jose kind of fire breather, like a little brighter 80s, you know, not in a bad way. It's cool. It's like really good aggressive rock thing, you know. I think I did videos for both of them. You can probably just kind of compare because you're hearing all of the things equal. I mean, you're hearing probably through the same cabinet and a lot of similarities, you know, going on. So check out both my videos, and I think you'll hear. If anything, I bet the PT20 has more gain. But I don't know. It might be a very similar amount of gain, just a different voice. What's a good powered monitor for coming on my HX Stomp when I can't go high volume in the $200 range? Like a floor wedge for gigs, because that's pretty low dough. I don't know what's available. I would probably look at the Head Rush. Maybe you can find a used one. They might be more than that, or they might not be, but they're very powerful and they're compact. So I think your choices are going to be a little bit limited in that, you know, that price range. But that's probably what I would look at. Just get a little one of those. Or if you're just talking about a studio monitor or something, you can generally buy them as singles. I would get a little Yamaha. Like, they make great, inexpensive studio monitors. So you could try that. If you just need a little bit of volume, want to practice at home kind of thing, look into getting just a single monitor. I mean, if you can, you could probably buy a pair for $400 or something of little Yamahas, and you know, with little 5-inch drivers. That'd probably sound good. What's everybody doing for New Year's? Anybody doing anything fun? Anybody got gigs? I wonder. I think I'm about 15, 20 minutes back in the chat, so I should move a little faster, I think. But I've almost got 500 people. Come on, it's at 498. Somebody call a friend and tell them to log on. That's pretty great. That's more people than I've had online in a while. So I'm happy for the what is it? 300th show. Right. Chris Quinn. Would love to see an Amps in the Zone where you wrestle with an old PV Bandit. You know, okay, so the Trans Tube Bandit, pretty solid amp, I think, actually. The one that came before that, maybe not as much, but ultimate low budget, plus we'd get to see what's in the hands. I'll tell you a funny story. I once did a Battle of the Bands thing, and we ended up winning it, actually, ultimately. But first, we had to play a gig we did a gig in San Francisco. It was sponsored by Gibson and some other. This was in the early 90s. Sponsored by Gibson and some other brands. And for some reason, it was in San Francisco. Was the initial. I don't know, Battle of the Bands. Like, what were we doing going all the way to San Francisco to play a gig? But we did. This is a band that I eventually got a record deal in a few years later. It was my first deal. But anyway, we got up to San Francisco. We flew, and I flew a 5150 head that I had in a road case. I got borrowed a road case from somebody and flew it up there. Well, the amp died on the gig. So it's a battle of the bands, right? You're performing and got to do great. And amp dies. Oh, shit. What are we going to do now? A very nice guy comes up to the stage and goes, hey, man. He was one of the other guitar players that was in a competing band. He said, hey, man, you're welcome to use my amp if you want. It's right back there, because we'd had all our gear on stage for sound check and everything. And it just stayed up, right? I turned around, and it was a PV Renown. A Renown. I was using a PV too, but it was a 5150 original block logo, right? PV Renown combo. And I was like, okay. And I thought quickly, first of all, you don't want to be rude. The guy was being very nice. But I also thought, I knew what a Renown sounds like, because I played them in the 80s a little bit and stuff. And I was like, you don't have any option. This guy's being nice. This is your option. Go with it. You got to move. So okay, thank you. And I took the cable out of whatever little pedal board I had and plugged it in. And I knew kind of how to dial it, because I'd played them. So it was clean channel, dirty channel. Dialed it up, counted off the next song. I was maybe only down for 30 seconds or something. Well, we won that night. We won the Battle of the Bands, which in turn sent us to New York, and we went there and played and won there, and ended up winning a Gibson guitar and some money and some other stuff. So long story short, it didn't really matter if I had my 5150 that night or a PV Renown. So there you go. It's not about the tools. It's about the workman or whatever. Todd says, pretty cool that Britt is up for Drumeo Rock Drummer of the Year. Now, this is a great chat with 506 people online. Everybody, please, after you get off of here, open up another web page. Don't leave me, because I like having all 500 of you here. Can you go to the Drumeo, as it is spelled there, drumeo.com webpage, and please vote for Britt for Rock Drummer of the Year. She got nominated with some very intense other characters like Josh Freese and other people that are all nominated for the fella from Queens of the Stone Age and some others, and Britt's amongst a group of 5 people in the rock drummer category. And she got nominated, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm so proud of her. So please go vote for Britt at the Drumeo website for Rock Drummer of the Year. It's very easy. You just tick her name and then vote. And that's it. You'll find it. It's very simple. Yeah, I mean, I love that she's up there with those guys, Josh and all those guys and stuff, who are obviously super experienced in tons of gigs. And Josh got in the Foo Fighters and all that. And he's a friend of mine. It's awesome to see all those guys. But I just love that Britt is right in there with all of them. And they say they gave the reasons that they nominated these people. And they say because she, went out and did a rock tour with Demi Lovato all last year, and also played on the VMAs and multiple television performances and all the cool stuff that she got to do. She was on Jimmy Kimmel. She was on Jimmy Fallon at least once, if not twice. She really came a long way in a year. It's really cool to see, and she kind of, it was neat to see her, how fast and how, to playing on TV is gnarly. It's like all this hurry up and wait, and then 3 minutes of go, and it's just like nerve-wracking. It's like you don't have a second chance and all that. And the way that she kind of took to it, and now just does it like it's nothing. Like if you watch her on the VMAs and with Demi, if anybody saw that, and Taylor Swift's out there and she's like totally rocking out, and then they go to Britt on the drums. It's like, I'm very proud of her. It's like, wow, you're really like killing it. So it's good, so please vote for her if you don't mind. Anyways, let's see. Not that music's a contest or anything either. I always think it's funny, like it's like best, whatever, but I guess it's just nice to be recognized, and all that. So Arthur says, Pete on tour starting fights with front of house guys. Never, I always get along with them these days, generally speaking. But I do like to have an understanding, and I think we've got somebody new for Classic Rock Show. So I think it would be best if we had a production meeting before we even get started, but about what it is that we're doing. My one thing with Classic Rock Show is that, and I'm very adamant about this, I think when people come to see it, I want them to have the experience of there's a lot of older folks there that, that have, and they want to rock. That's the cool thing. There's a lot of older people and you see them, they're really into it. There's never a complaint about volume, from any of them, like guitar volume. Or I have never heard of the guitar is so loud or seen anybody doing this in the crowd or anything. You can see people that might look like, oh, that looks like, my grandmother sitting out there, but they're singing all the words to AC/DC and Led Zeppelin because that's just where we're at. That's how old we are now. So it's like where they are. And you know what I'm saying? So I want them to come to the show and walk away from it with an experience that was where they go, I remember what that's like. I remember what that's my, that's all a celebration in this music. And I don't want it to be like a band. Nothing wrong with this because it's got a purpose, but like a band in a casino in Vegas that has to play below a certain because they don't want to, you know what I mean? That kind of or whatever. It's like just background music. I want them to have the rock experience that they maybe remember from seeing a show in the 80s or something, or 90s or whatever. It should be a little dangerous and it should, shake your balls or whatever. So if that makes sense. So 300 doesn't seem real, says Corey, but you are the real deal. Thank you. Any New Year's resolutions for gear or life? I was reading something the other day about stress and it really rang true with me. Just I don't know if you guys are like that out there, but I get behind these days. I've got a lot of stuff that I'm supposed to do in here, like mainly video stuff I'm speaking of. And I just don't have time before I go on tour to actually do it all. And I'm trying to prioritize, but I'm going to piss people off. I know it. But the type of video that I make or the way that I do it, where I want to make a little song and all that stuff, it's like, it takes a while sometimes. It doesn't take super long, but sometimes it's a day and I can knock it out. It's an 11-hour day, but I can do it, in a day. But sometimes it's 3 days, and it can be like, I think the video for this guy was about 3 days. Not of 3 days of 8-hour days every day, but I had 4 hours to work here, and then I came to it another day for 6 hours, and then I had another 3.5 on another day, and with everything with the life coming at you, and that's how I finished this. So sometimes it can be, and then the time just disappears, and it seems like no matter what I do, I can only kind of get a couple done a week. Like there's been weeks where I've done 7, but I'm not going to do that anymore. Like all I did was that week. I didn't do anything. It was a balance of life and eating properly and hanging out with people and anything like that. So all I can seem to do is a couple a week. And this is quality problems because people, I love that companies want me to make these videos for pedals and stuff like that. And I really enjoy it. But sometimes I just can't get to them all before I'm going to go on tour. I toured a lot this past year, and maybe that was also something that I learned this past year, like about a life balance of like, maybe I did a little too much this past year for where I'm at in life right now, because it took too much away from maybe, I want to balance being here and balance being out too, but I have to go out because I really enjoy it. Like, and I feel like it's part of what you guys come here for is because I do go out and play live and, I'm not, yeah, we're talking about YouTubers today here on the show. I am a YouTuber, that is a thing, but I never started as one. I was always a working, gigging musician and stuff like that. And this has become a really welcome addition to what I do, but I don't just want to stay home and do YouTube. I want to go out and play live and experience that. I have to do it. It feels good to me. I get excited about it. And it's part of what keeps me, younger, not young maybe, but, so I need the balance. And I have to be okay with that. So part of my New Year's resolution is, you're going to have to learn how to maybe sometimes disappoint people better. Or I've always had a problem disappointing people, maybe a people pleaser a little bit, that personality. Some of you out there can probably relate. And I don't like disappointing people, but I have to learn how to say, I'm sorry, but it's going to be like this. If you, want me to make your video or sometimes, because I'm just not going to be able to get to everything. And I want to, I don't want to piss people off or make people, I don't want to be unreliable. I worry, nobody's going to like me anymore or whatever, hate me because I didn't do their video on time. But sometimes I just can't, like I just run out of time. So I got to learn how to do that. That's I think the main thing in the new year. And but I really feel like mentally I'm actually in a pretty good place right now. So resolutions, gear in life, I feel like I'm like pretty happy generally speaking, and I'm happy to be doing what I do. I'm excited to be going on the road and all that good stuff. So yeah. So, Okay, let's get back to the gear and stuff. So Jack's guitar player says it may not, or this is more talking about stage volume, balancing. It may not be too loud, but your stage amp could be beaming with tons of treble and presence. So, I mean, part of what we do is, I always am comfortable with angling my cabs, and I always suggest that to the sound guy, like, hey, I'm okay with cheating this to the right so that it's headed towards the right-hand wall a little bit, as opposed to, you're going to ask me to turn down because it's beaming at you. What if I do this, which generally helps? And they're like, yeah, that works. Or, but the other thing that we did on Classic Rock Show is we got some plexi panels like what Bonamassa uses. I don't know if you guys have tried using those, but for the beam of treble and all that, because guitar cabinets are admittedly, yes, they're very beamy. I mean, it's kind of amazing. I remember one time an AC30, or maybe it was my divided by 13. I think it was my top hat. I had a top hat, AC30 style combo, King Royale. And I remember playing at a festival somewhere, literally outdoor festival. And I was playing, it's a 30-watt amp, but I used to turn it up to 4 or whatever it was, 4 or 5, That's making good, healthy volume for sure. But a 212 combo. And the sound guy going, are you doing something, like, are you playing louder today? I was like, no. And it was outdoors, and they were somehow, and I remember going to front of house and going, let me hear what you're hearing. Because I like to go and hear what they're talking about in case I'm crazy or whatever. And it was really beamy. This 212 combo right at front of house was just like, and I thought maybe if I just go like this or whatever, but they're like, huh, that's crazy. Like, and it was just the way it was configured on the stage that day, and everything was just beaming right at the sound guy. And it was, I did, just to play devil's advocate to myself for a minute, I do get it sometimes. It's like, if those guitar cabs, however a guitar cab throws sound, it can be amazing how it can be very right in your face, So, anyways, the plexi panels tend to help like worlds of difference with all that. And I find you don't even need to get the full ones. You can just get the ones that cover kind of 3/4 of the cabinet, and then the top speakers still blow out the top a little bit and stuff, and that tends to work really well. So, can you tell me what the new and improved master volume is like on the SL67 or 68 Mark II? How is it different than the original? It's a different design, and what I find is that it tends to keep the mids more intact. It sounds less scooped lower. Original one worked great, but it was a case of, maybe diminishing returns as you kept turning it down to get into maybe the bedroom volume territory and stuff. It would still sound pretty cool, but it could be a little like edgy, and it just sort of changed, the way the amp sounds. With the new one, it really has this sort of effect of almost like a linear, as you're turning it all the way down. It sounds really good. One thing that I think it does is load the phase inverter in an interesting way, but it kind of makes it sound cool. If you're trying to get cleaner sounds, it's maybe not the best thing, but as soon as you're distorting the amp at all, it works just fine, and it sounds totally rock and just kind of like saturated and cool. Like, so, long story short, you might find that it just has a more pleasing sound at lower volumes that sounds more like the amp loud, a little more transparent, even though it's maybe not, even though it's maybe actually distorting the phase inverter a little more or something like that. But it's just cool. It just works well in press. You have to try it and tell me what you think. Yeah, I really dig it. Okay, let's see what else we got here. 475 says, Peter, hit the like button. Yes, please. Let's spread this one far and wide. Other people will watch, hopefully, and then I'll get some new viewers maybe in the year 2024. Not that I don't love you all, my faithful viewers, but it's always nice to get. My YouTube channel has been the long, slow, steady. I think about 11 months ago I was at 250, and now I'm at 261 subscribers. It's not like I don't get the exponential build and whatever, but that's okay with me. I don't really care. We're all about quality here, not quantity. Okay. Almost 500 watching, says Ryan. Yeah. Well, a few logged off, but we hit a nice peak there. It was great. Chuck says, just a super chat. Thank you, sir. $3 will buy me another one of these. Delicious. Not quite, actually. Chuck, thank you very much. I appreciate that. You typed this looks like you said something else, but I'm not going to say it. but that was worth the the super chat right there. Come on. Oh my God, that's funny. We like it's comedy around here. It's good times. Okay. Also wondering where the API went. What's that? API what? API mic pre? API. I have an API. I'm using my knees right now, but I have an API stereo thing. Corey says, forgot to tell you, I saw Big Wreck a couple weeks ago, and they're so versatile. Absolutely. Some songs with heavy riffs you think are going to be growling vocals, and then they surprise you. Yeah, they can kind of take the turn. In one song, they can go from beautiful and light to heavy as hell, you know. That's part of their thing. Great band, man. Great guy as well. Love Ian. What a gem that dude is. All those guys, super nice. Oh yeah, I just saw this. The Beato interview with Steve Morse was epic. I got to see that. He was a big influence on me in the 80s. I watched his instructional videos a lot and listened to High Tension Wires and Too Many Notes and all that. You know, he was such a cool player, and I haven't listened to him a lot lately, you know, and seen what he's been up to and stuff. But he's a legend, man. I mean, what a unique guitar player, you know. And never afraid to mod his guitars and all the crazy pickups and the different sounds, and his rigs with like the 4 volume pedals, all controlling different things. And you know, he was really unique. He's kind of I think he's underrated, actually. You know, I met him once sitting there. He was very nice, just briefly, but I got to watch that interview. Yeah. Loving how Beato's guests are playing guitar during interviews. That's really good. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. He does look like Jeff Beck now. Yeah, it's the full 70s shag I got going. Yeah. I'm working on it. Okay, what else we got here? Who tells a rocker to get a haircut? I liked short hair for a while, but I'm going long one more time. Why not? Todd says, I can't believe you're not on the Ernie Ball legendary player list. Oh, I thank you. Write him an email and say, hey, you know what? Ernie Ball is the most supportive company, man. I've been using their strings since 2007, I think. So that's 15 years now, at least. And they are so, like, it's a terrific situation. I always tell people, you know, the strings are, to me, Ernie Ball and D'Addario are, what else do you need? You know, both great companies. And Ernie Ball has been so terrific to me. They're just a terrific partner. So, and anytime they want me to do something, I'm happy to do it as well. They only really asked me to do, like, I did a video for a couple of pedals for them. They made some cool pedals a while ago, if anybody remembers, but they made a delay as well as an overdrive that had an expression pedal and a volume pedal. And I did videos for those, and you can hear, I did a performance and I did it there. I filmed it live. It's not a playthrough like everybody friggin' does these days. I insisted on, I did it with a Kemper, I think. Like I because it was like done at their facility, but they didn't have a, you know, ability to mic amps and stuff really there. So what I did was I insisted on doing this. I had a little full range speaker. It was like a bass amp, but it had a horn in it. So they're like, we could use this. Kind of works like a PA. And I'm like, okay. And I took a little Apollo Twin and a recording interface and a Kemper. And then I came up with a piece of music where I plugged the 2 pedals, the overdrive and the delay, into it. And I sat there and played the thing live. So, and I tracked it into Logic. So the takes you see me doing in the video are real takes of me doing the stuff. And then I said, I'll go back to my studio now and mix this. And I mixed it. And that's what you hear in those Ernie Ball, it's an Expression series, I think it was called. I'm going to find the video because I want you to see what I'm talking about. Everybody's freaking playthrough videos these days, you know? And it's like, Ernie Ball Expression overdrive. I can't remember if I did both videos in one. Oh, there's a bunch of them on here. That's not my shoe. I remember I wore my good shoes that day. It's funny because there's a bunch on here, but there's Don Felder's got some cool shoes too. I'm watching, I can see his. Where's mine? Doesn't come up. Must have sucked. Must not have been good. It doesn't come up in the first ones at the top of the page. I'm gonna find it here. Ernie Ball Expression Pedals Overdrive Thorn. Let's try and put our name in there, shall we? Oh, there's my shoe. God, this video, I worked hard on this and it only got 10,000 views. That's not that many. I'm going to pull it up real quick here and copy the link, and then you guys can watch it if you want to. But I made sure, I promise you, that this is a live take of me actually. Here, I just put it in the chat there if you're interested. Yeah. Neat pedals, like kind of where you could control the overdrive amount with the expression, and then the delay one, I think you could control the delay amount with those. So you could do, so I tried to come up with a video that, it's both the ambient delay and overdrive expression there in the chat, in the chat. I posted the link so you can see it. Yeah. God, it was a long time ago. It's 7 years ago. It says, 7 years ago. It's crazy. It doesn't feel that long. Life's flying by, man. Trying to live in a state of gratitude because life is flying by. Worked with Nuno a few years ago, and if you saw his settings, you would not believe it. Oh, what were they, Mark? Tell us about Nuno's settings. Nuno keeps the gain almost all the way down and the volume cranked. Well, that's just kind of old school. That's like, if you do that with a JCM 800, if you keep the volume up to they sound great with the volume on 7 or 8 and then bringing the gain in, because then basically what you've got is like an extra gain stage and a plexi. It's like kind of a light gain stage, but it's a little gainier than a plexi, and it can be ripping loud, but boy, it sounds good when you get it up loud. There's something about the master on a JCM 800. I wouldn't have believed it, but they really sound better when you open them way up. That's the Warren DeMartini thing. It's ridiculously loud, but when you open the amp up above 6, the master, that's when they get cool. Otherwise, an 800 to me stock is always a little anemic and a little flubby. That's a weird combo. Low gain, but not tight. I don't like that much, but it's incredible how the whole thing just kind of balances out when you turn the master up to 7 or 8, and then you bring the gain up to, as it gets above 5 or 6, and it's like, ooh, that sounds good right there. And you can turn the master down and hear the flub come in and hear the high end, the cut kind of go away. And then as you bring the master up, you can hear it. So it's easy to do in the studio because you can isolate the cab and you don't have to get pummeled with volume. Try it with a power station or something sometimes. A great sound. And they all kind of do it. It's pretty wild. So anyways, okay, let's see. I've heard of this pedal, Lee. He's asking about a Rockbox boiling point, but I've never played one. I have heard of it, though. Yeah. Have you ever used DR high beams? I used to use DR strings before Ernie Ball. I was an endorser for a few years. I used to use the round core ones, and the D strings would slip on me. There was this issue with but they swore after that they've got that all solved now and stuff. And I'm sure the hex core ones are fine, but the round core ones I would find. Do you ever have a D string on it? This is a unique problem. I wonder if anybody else has ever had that, or maybe it's not that unique. Where all of a sudden it sounds like you can't intonate your D string, and I don't know why it was always on the D, but it was always on the D. Like where. And what I was told was the core can slip through the wind, and maybe it's got something to do with the tension, or it's a thinner string or something. I don't know what it is. Maybe the thinner wind gauge makes it easier for the core to slip through or something because it's not as tight. Well, I had that problem on a fair amount and I think they contacted me one time because I might have brought this up on another live stream, and they were like, "Hey, we fixed that." So I don't want to badmouth them. That's for sure. I don't want them to think this is 20 years ago almost probably that I was having these problems on DR. So, but yeah, I used to use them back then, and they were nice people and everything. It was great, but I was getting tired of changing strings and then having my D strings go weird. So, but it's probably all different now. So don't be mean to the folks at DR or not buy their strings or whatever because of what I just said. But I'm sure they got that sorted. From guys like me complaining. Yeah. I think the Jake E. Lee Friedman is my favorite amp Dave's created. It's a cool one. That sounds really good. The little guy sounds good. The big one sounds good. Jake sounds good. I love Jake. He's great. Sounds good no matter what he uses, I bet. 500 says Ryan Hall. Thank you. Yeah, it's great to 500 for 300. The 300th show today. Okay. What else we got here? I'm gonna move through the chat here. Are you going to be dropping in on Rick Beato's New Year's live stream? I did that once, but no, not this year. I did that during the pandemic. I haven't talked to Rick for a long time, actually. I'm going to check in with him, see how he's doing. Yeah, okay. Congratulations, says SQL Smarty with a super chat. Thank you, my friend. 300 live shows. Appreciate the information. Thank you. And the rants. Thank you for the super chat. And also to Travis, thank you very much, you guys. He's so kind. Had a renown back in the mid-'80s. We've come a long way since saturation. We're still saturating, I guess. Yeah. I would love to try a Bandit, actually, now that you mention it. And an old, what was the little guy? The Rage. Remember the Rage 158? That was cool. You know what a great little PV amp is? The Classic 20. Little tube screamer that always, God, what a lead sound. They were kind of like PV's answer to the Blues Junior, but they were more high gain and like they had a cool rock sound. Not the same as the Classic 30. The Classic 20 was a sweet little amp, man. Like really, really cool. Yeah. Okay. What else we got here? Will Sir release a charcoal metallic guitar to the public? I think so. Yeah, I think we're gonna do one. It's definitely been popular, so I love it. Freddie's Fret said, "I'd love to do front of house for you. I won't tell you to turn down. You're hired." Paul with a super chat. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. I happen to have a pair of Celestion black back 25s in the closet. What would you pair them with in 412 for a typical Plexi? Just get a couple new greenbacks. Honestly, that's what I would do. And put the blackbacks in the top, put the greenbacks in the bottom. You'll hear them all loud and clear, and it'll be cool. That's exactly what I would do. New greenbacks, just the regular run of the mill ones. They'll pair up great. Get the matching homage. Yep. More super chatties. It's been a while for me, but Happy New Year, Pete, and everybody else out there. Loot89, I remember you. Thanks very much. You guys with all these super chats. Jeez. Go out and buy a case of coffee so that I can be wired. Ryan, thank you as well. My pickups are mid-heavy, bass 5.5, low mid 0.5, high mid 6.5, treble 4 from DiMarzio. Oh, they do those, right, little tone list things. All OD boost pedals sound tunnelish through my Super Jubilee. Scooping mids or push treble presence. Are they high mid 6.5? Interesting. I mean, a Jubilee's kind of got mids, you know? That's the thing. It just makes me wonder what's actually causing that. Are these humbuckers? Maybe you want to try, you might want to try like a graphic in the loop. I'm just kind of thinking like if you want to really sculpt the tone of an amp or an overall sound, you could try it in front. You could also try it in the loop. Try something like an MXR 10 band. It's kind of amazing what you can do with one of those. Like, back when I was doing my 5-minute lessons, way back when I had a place in Santa Monica that had the windows and stuff, the house, you can find videos of me playing my SL68 loaded down with this. I've got a Phantom there from Faustine. You can't see it. Attenuator. Used that as a load. And then I ran the line out into a MXR 10 band graphic and then into a Matrix power amp and then into a 112. And that's the guitar sound on some of those 5-minute lessons. Like, I think that's what I was using when I was using the one with the Dave Grohl, where I'm talking about shifting positions or whatever. And anyways, if you see some of those videos, you'll hear me using, it's kind of a convoluted way of saying, you'll hear me using a graphic EQ to shape the sound of the amp. Post distortion, basically. I was doing it after a load, but you can also do that just in the loop of an amp. So the video that I did maybe for the Boss graphic EQ, the 200 series Boss, and you can hear me using it in the loop as well as in front of the amp and kind of shaping the distortion tone with it. Check that out, because it sounds to me like you might either want to change your pickups or you might just want to try and shape your entire tone. It's not unlike also like when you think of a graphic on a Mesa, right? On a Mark 4 or 5, whatever, 2C. You're shaping it post distortion with that 5-band graphic, and that's part of the key to the sound on those amps. You wouldn't think of using the amp without it, I don't think. It's kind of funny because those amps just became normal. Oh yeah, it's got a graphic, and you do this to it, and that's exactly what you're doing. On a Marshall or something, kind of nobody does it, but it's really easy to get a graphic. I remember my friend Al using a 31-band graphic, like a pro, a pro graphic, that was made for PA, like an Ashley or something, made for PAs, and he put it in the loop of his amps and shaped the tone, so you can always try that. And yeah, you don't need a crazy one. I find the MXR 10-band actually works really well for this. I still have mine. Give that a go. Would you ever use Fractal live? Well, I have. I used a Fractal with Melissa Etheridge on whole tours as the only thing. I did go DI with it, no sound on stage, for a European run. Then I did a whole tour where I used it into a tube power amp, Atomic 5050. Still have that power amp, 6L6 aside, 50 watts, 6L6 50 watts aside, excuse me. And I had a 4-space rack that we would carry with us. And then I rented a Marshall cab locally. This was a Melissa Etheridge run where we didn't have production on this run. So it's a few things, a couple guitars in this rack. And so guitar into the Axe effects for all the effects and the foot controller, and then out into the power amp to the cab. And also I ran IRs to the PA. So I've done it, have done it. So I can't be accused of not using it. Okay. And I also used a Fractal for many years, by the way, just for effects, kind of like Steve I does. I used it in a wet, dry, wet setup. And as the main kind of time-based stuff, rotary, delays, reverbs, and all that good stuff. Pitch with Chris Cornell the whole last year, 2009. My whole rig was, that was the effects. I had some pedals and stuff too, but most of the, all the time-based stuff. What about a live stream for pedal videos, no editing? That's a great idea. And as far as getting more work done, and I have done a little like live pedal demo. I have done a little bit of that. We've done it a couple times. It's not a bad idea, and I think people actually kind of enjoy it. So maybe I'll do more of that, like in this format. Just do it on a Sunday live and just be like, okay, for the first 20 minutes, we're going to check out this pedal, and say it's a really good idea, to be honest. I think people kind of dig it. It's just a different thing. So when you do YouTube and it can be a trap or a crutch, I guess, but you get stuck into a certain thing that works, and then you end up doing that a lot. And that's kind of, maybe I'm guilty of that, but it's also a big part of why people come to the channel, I think, is the little tunes, and I have fun making them. So I don't want to not do that, but yeah, maybe I don't need to do it all the time. Good point. Will you be dropping in on Rick's live stream? I don't think so. He hasn't asked me. He doesn't love me anymore. I haven't talked to Rick in a long time. I guess I saw him it wasn't at NAMM last year. 2 years ago would be the last time I saw him. It's been a minute. He's a big deal now, man. He doesn't have time for me. No, I'm just kidding. He's not that kind of guy. Rick's a great guy. I should reach out and say hi. I love the work he's been doing. It's been awesome. No questions, no input, just Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thanks for the channel and work. Thank you, John McClain. I just saw you in Die Hard. Hans got thrown off the top of the Nakatomi Plaza. It was a big deal. It was you. You did it. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. God, how many times have you gotten that over the last, apologies, 30 years of that, right? Ever since the movie came out. Oh, I'm sorry. I am sorry. That is the worst. Oh God. Oh brother. Okay. Well, you have more guests in the new year. You enjoyed the interview with Kim, says JW. And thank you for the super chat, Mr. McLean. I always gotta have guests, for sure. Voting is closed December 25th for drummer of the year. Oh, okay. Yeah, it was over on Christmas. Didn't know that. But anyways, just wonderful she got nominated and is being recognized. That's Brit, Drummio of the year. Sorry, I sent you all there, and now I probably sent 300 people over there, and now they can't vote. That's a drag. Anyways, let's see here. Long, naive Steve. Long hair to me these days means out of the ears or the nose. Isn't that cruel? Just age related, like, here, we're going to take it from here and put it in here. Growing out of your nose and your ears. It's crazy. I went to a doctor once that looked at my ears and he said, "You have a lot of hair in your ears." Really? And then you start thinking, oh, yeah, my granddad. Oh, yeah, he had those tufts of hair growing out. I got that to look forward to. It's going to be great. Anyways, that's too much information. Let's see here. I love Deftones, but I saw them live and they weren't a great live show, vocally or in terms of guitar tones. Really, I've seen them and they've been great. I mean, I remember playing with them in Syracuse, New York, at a rock show with Cornell. Deftones. They were great that day. It was awesome. I like Deftones. They're cool, man. They're just neat. I mean, they sound like the Deftones. They have a sound and they're like, they sound like anybody else. They're just cool. Gojira, they're another one of my favorite heavy bands. They went on after Gojira. They had Stacks and Marshalls. The difference was noticeable. Gojira is a killer band. Love them. Are you changing anything in your rig setup? A couple new pedals. The Unit 67's back on the board. I didn't have it for the last run, but it's back. I'm also using a Boss pedal for something. It's a combo drive, believe it or not. Not one of the ones people talk about, but it sounds awesome for what I'm using it for. Combo drive is basically like an AC30 simulator. So running it in front of the clean channel on my amp for something, and it's really cool. It's like, yeah, that works. Instant gratification. It was cool. Anything else? I'll have the new guitar out. That's a big change. So the Floyded PT Sig with the why do I keep whistling like that? I don't know. Sparkle. You can't really see the sparkle in this light very well, but it's sparkly. There it is. I'm playing that a lot. It's probably kind of the main guitar on the show, actually, because it just works on a bunch of stuff that we're playing this year. It's just cool. So, have you heard the PTV Classic 50 series are pretty good and capable of getting a Marshall style tone? Yeah, I kind of think so. Like the Classic 50, definitely on the drive side. I think the guitars sound on Alive by Pearl Jam. So if you think of the, I think that's a Classic 50. The tone at the beginning. I think that's the song. And it sounds pretty Marshall-y to me, I always thought it kind of sounded Marshall-y. I mean, they have EL84s, which maybe they should have done an EL34 version of it, and because they're Riffs and Reefer says no. I don't know, man. I felt like they did a pretty cool drive thing. I mean, I toured for years with Don Henley with the other guitar player, Stuart Smith, use a 410 Classic 50 as his amp. I think he still uses it. And just with pedals, and he had a great sound. Now, he never used the overdrive channel. He only used the clean channel, but cool sounding amp. I guess that's saying what you're saying. You use pedals, but anyways, really, really good tone. Warren G. Martini was mentioned in a few shows. Any chance of having him on as a special guest? I would love to have him. He doesn't really do a lot of stuff like this, internet style. He would probably do Rig Talk before he'd do my show. I know Warren. I'm friends with him. And Friedman's, that's how I met him, was through Dave. Maybe that's why I feel like I met him through Dave. So maybe Dave should have the first right of refusal on a Warren D. Martini show. You know what I mean? It's like that wouldn't be fair if he did my show before doing Dave's. I feel like he should do Dave's because he works on his amps and everything. So he should do a rig talk, But he's kind of private, and he's the sweetest guy, Warren DeMartini. He really is. You'd all just love him. He's got the nicest demeanor, and he's just very, very kind and no ego. And he's just I think he, for a long time, just kind of like, but he comes from a little bit different generation and stuff. And like, for instance, George, you see who's, they're friends, and he's really taken to doing the internet thing. And but George's personality is kind of a more, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, he's always taking the piss out and just kind of like funny, never stops cracking jokes. He's a little more freewheeling, like, or something like that. Warren's a little more like quiet or something, or he's just got he's really great. I mean, but it's not for everybody, this stuff, that's all. So I think I'm always sensitive about. I try and, I like to think I'm an empathetic person, and sometimes you get a that somebody is uncomfortable with something, and so I don't like to. I get that. It's not for everybody. So that's all it is. Okay, getting long-winded. By switching your string gauge, do you have your guitars adjusted? Yeah, you have to. You kind of got to do intonation every time you change a gauge. It's going to be a little off if you go from 9s to 10s or something. And generally speaking, your neck's going to, you got to tweak the rod. You might not need to change action. You might. But the main things you need to tweak are probably intonation and neck. I bet most people would back me up on that. Now, if, you might get away with a heavier gauge and lower action sometimes because they're a little more taut, so they don't vibrate. Whereas you might find if you go to a lighter string, even if you adjust the neck, that maybe they hit the frets a little more. I don't know, maybe, But I think main thing I would start with is intonation, and would probably tweak the neck first after the change to get that just right. I always like to think that do everything first to get it like feeling just right, and then do the intonation, because I would think that the angle of the neck where the nut is maybe could affect string length a little bit, or maybe the height of the strings, the action off the bridge could affect string length a little bit. So I think the last thing you should adjust is the length between the nut and the bridge, the all important intonation. Just my opinion. Get the thing playing just like you would, and then do the intonation last, and then leave it. Hopefully that makes sense. Waiting for your Sir Thorn HSS. Did you order one? I wonder. They're out there. I love that thing. I have it right here, as you know. The D string problem was going on. Oh, here's an interesting. When I use DR Prior Blues, might have to do with the core, the round core versus hex. That's what I think. Because a hex core, the nature of a hex core is that this is the core going through. So for those that don't know, you've got a core going through a wound string. So it's always like a wire through the middle, and then and it'll be a hex wire if it's a hex core string, which is 99% of the strings out there. And that hex, of course, the edge on it will probably grab the wind a little more, is the thinking. Well, DR kind of made a name for making some round core strings and said that they sound different, or maybe that they were, I don't know what the pitch was exactly, but I guess that was my experience. Was I had some problems with the D's back then. They probably got it all sorted now. So what are your NAMM plans? Says Plexco. Hey man, what's up? I'm not going because I'm on tour. So I'll be in like Cambridge and a couple other UK cities around then playing gigs. So I won't be able to make it, but I hope it's good this year. And if it is, I'll make sure to go next year. I'll figure it out so that my gigs are somehow scheduled around it or something. How about that slide intro that Ian Thornley does live at the beginning of Albatross? Yeah, he's amazing, man. Amazing with the slide. Incredible. Where's your freak out pedal? Start or finish? It's right at the beginning. First thing that gets hit at the beginning of my chain. It wants to see the signal coming right out of your guitar. It doesn't want to. If you put anything before it, it can get kind of confused, So yeah, it just wants that pure whatever signal coming out of the guitar to grab onto and feedback. Yeah. Let's see. Braxall is asking about the charcoal metallic guitar. Let him know. Yeah, I'll let you know when we're just waiting on figuring out a couple things because I think it's going to happen that we'll make at least a run of those. But we're just trying to figure out exactly what to do. Part of the guitar has a FU tone bridge on it, which is great. That has a few titanium parts on it and stuff, and of course. Part of the thing that I mentioned a week ago, I think that I like to do with the guitar is make sure it doesn't get too expensive. So I love the bridge that's on it. It's not all like it's not a super tricked out one, but it does have some titanium on it, which always increases the cost. And then it's got a big brass block and stuff. Truth be told, I tried the guitar with a regular bridge on it before, just a Goto, and it was cool like that too. This bridge, I think, does sound a little different, and I really like it. But they were both good, and so the question is, what's the we're trying to figure out just specking it, like the difference in cost and what would people be willing to, how far, if it's more than the other one, how far are we and are they as customers willing to go? And so we're just trying to nail that all down. And if it all makes sense, if I don't mind if it's, I think it's fine probably if it's a little bit more and it's an upgrade option kind of on the guitar. So just getting all that sorted out and stuff, and then we'll figure out what to do. That's what's happening right now. Oh, interesting. Guitar Center Manhattan had an HHP signature and 2 of the HSS SIGs. I actually love the classic look of these guitars. That's awesome to hear. That's so cool that they got, well, that's excellent. I hope they're selling. Sir SL68, get the perfect VH sound. I agree. Terrific. Simon says, hey man, with a super chat. Thank you up there in Canada. Happy holidays to you and close ones. As I always bug you, amp in the zone AC30. I know. I got to do that too. You even spoke about other wrecks. I was supposed to make a video with some other wrecks, but that never came together. I ran out of time because I had a tour. I did the Nick Carter tour. I was supposed to actually travel to go where there's some train wrecks and make a video, and then it just ended up. And I bet that's another one where I think people are mad at me because I didn't get it done. But I just didn't have time. Like I physically to get all the work done that I had to get done, which was learning songs for tour, getting ready for rehearsals, finishing other work I had to do. So that was one that fell by the wayside. So, but anyways, hopefully it ends up happening at some point or some other variation. That one wreck video I did was a blast. This is interesting. I watched a video first video about SL67. I enjoyed the video so much I went to the SIR website to check out the amps. That's cool. That's how it all happens these days. Congrats on 300, says Sonic Blue 1922. Thank you. Pete at home, quiet to really loud TV. What are you playing through? Fortunately, $1 million ears and $100 hands and continually searching. Well, I like to play these days through something incredibly small at home. Like I was using the little Black Star Fly 3s are awesome. As a matter of fact, you just reminded me I should buy another one. Oh no, I have my New X. I'll take that to UK. I've got a little New X combo that's even got little drum loops in it and stuff. And so that's fun to jam with and warm up. It's this big, the little battery ones, or you can run them off like a pedal power adapter. So yeah, stuff like that is what I like to use, to be honest. If I'm just playing really quiet at home, the little New X sounds great. It's got like little high gain sounds in it. I think Boss makes amps like that too and stuff. The Yamaha THR, that's another one that sounds great. If you're playing that quiet, just play, there's so many great little practice amps out there now. Awesome. I think probably Positive Grid, people, those are popular. I can get a sound out of any of those things that's good enough to jam with at home, Think Cube, Roland Cube or Boss, whatever, the tiny ones. Have you ever tried to gather numbers of actual sales you assist with your demos? No, I haven't. I have heard, like, it's all over the map, but I don't know, I can see, I'm a Sweetwater affiliate. That's no surprise. And I can go and look at how many people click the links in the video description below any video and see like how many things have sold and all that stuff. And it's always interesting, but I heard through the grapevine, there was one modeler company that I made a video for. And I didn't hear it directly from them, but somebody else that was in the industry that was talking to the company said, we think Pete's video sold millions of dollars worth of these things. So I was like, oh, did they really say that? Maybe I should be thinking about changing my pricing structure then or something. The way, because it can take, if I make a video for a modeler, it can take like 4 or 5 days. It's going to take a long time. You got to go through the learning curve of just getting used to using it and all that, and then get to the point where you actually know what you're talking about, write a song, do it, put the video together, edit it. It's a big process for something that's like a modeler. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, it was a nice sort of compliment, but I did think about it. Like maybe I should be thinking about this in a different way. But whatever. Yeah, it's all good. I always just try and make fun videos that have decent music in them, no matter what I'm using. So, okay. Dave says all the best on 300. Keep rocking. Thank you, man. I'm going to keep going. Yeah. Oh, this is funny. Travis says, here's the Die Hard story. For the Hans Gruber death, they told Alan Rickman that he would drop on a 3 count. They went early. His look of surprise as he falls is genuine. That's amazing. Hopefully they had a net. Didn't really drop him off in Century City. Yeah, we all know he lived. I'd forgotten that he passed away, actually. Was that like 4 or 5 years ago or something? He was a great actor, man. He was in so much good stuff. That guy. That might have been one of his first big roles, right? Was he in anything else before Die Hard that was super notable? That might have put him on the map, but maybe he was. I don't know. You should get Reb Beach on the show, a fellow surf player. I would love that. He's a great player. I've only met him once. He was very nice, though. Super cool. Okay. How do you ship your gear over? It goes cartage. Freight company comes and picks it up, and then I think they pallet it all. Big pallet, gets all plasticed, the whole thing, loaded on an airplane, and fly it over. It's a lot of stuff this year, too. I'm sure I'll hear about it after it gets there. Maybe. Let's see. Your new amp, will it be coming out next year? I certainly hope so. I will make a push soon to keep working on it. Harem Scarum, Pete from Harem Scarum. Yes or no? Yes. Sweet guy, cool guy. I actually hung out and had a adult beverage with him and Mike from Our Lady Peace, the original guitar player in Toronto. Doesn't get much more Canadian than that. Number of years ago. He was super nice. Carlos Cavaz. Am I saying his name right? Cavazo? Because I always feel like I'm going to mispronounce his name. Would be great to have on the show. Agreed. I've never met him, though. I don't know him. Yeah. Okay. You should have Ty Tabor. I did have Ty Tabor on an interview. Human Activated. Go search the Pete Thorne, Ty Tabor live. You'll find it. Great interview. He was really sweet. And it was during pandemic. He was very free with his time and questions. And, he was very cool. I remember this quote. Johnny says, Geddy Lee said it best. The internet is everything you need and everything you don't need. I think the quote was, it's everything you need and nothing you need. But you might be right. Both are cool, but slightly different. Yeah, I remember that, though. I use 9 to 42 strings, says Kane, and recently found changing B to 12 and G to 15. The strings are more balanced. That's interesting. So you go to kind of a 9, 11. So you go to heavier B and a slightly lighter G. I do like the 15 on the G. That's the Eddie Van Halen thing. And a 40 on the E. Basically, you got the Van Halen gauge then. But, it's just simpler to whatever. What am I trying to say? Okay, sorry, I had a brain fart. It's easier to just use the gauge as it comes. For AC30 cleans, I'd say AC30 is best. For Hot Rod Marshall Crunch, I'd say hit riddled Marshall. Hit riddled. I like that rather than hot rodded. I want to get my amp hit riddled. Philip Aspie there with a $10 super chat. Thank you. Happy 300. Thanks for hanging with us every week and being so generous with your knowledge and insight. Here's the coffee fund. Thanks. Man, maybe I should start doing this on Saturdays to been a great. We've had close to 500 people for the whole show. Terrific. Thanks for doing it at a unique time. Next week should be the usual time. I'll be in England next week at this time, I think. Or will I? I think so. Where will I be next week? I think I'll be there for one day or something. I'll be all jet lagged and weird. Let me take a look at the calendar here. What's happening? Today is the 30, or no, today's what day is it today? I don't know. Why can't I read a calendar? Okay, yeah. So next week, Sunday, yeah, I will have arrived on Saturday. It'll be rehearsal day. Probably kind of a long day, but that's okay. I'll do some form of this next week. It'll be Sunday evening my time, but morning your time. Might be a little later than 11:45 a.m. It might be more like, or 11:45 a.m. It might be 12:45 p.m. or 1 p.m. or something like that, depending on what time I can get to it, because we'll just be in the sort of first full day of rehearsal. Is that right? Oh yeah, it'll be the first day of rehearsals. Ooh, I'm still going to do it. I'm not going to screw you guys over. I'll be here. It'll be the first day of rehearsals. And we might not go super long that day, actually, because it'll be like get in, get set up. It's probably a good day to do it, actually. Get in, get set up, play a few things, get a monitor mix, and then, then I can buzz out. It might be eating. I might be at dinner when we're doing it. We'll see. Sunday the 7th. Yep. Now, after that, I should mention, as we get further into January, I notice we've got gigs on Sundays sometimes. So just bear with me. I'm always going to do it, but I might have to modify the time a little bit. Could be a little earlier, could be a little later. Might not always be 10. I'm going to do the best I can to keep it consistent, but I might be switching it up a little bit and doing it at 10:30 a.m. LA time or something like that, and going for an hour or something. Could be while I'm warming up before the show, that kind of thing. I burped. Jen, what's up? How you doing? You're going to come see the gig? Are you? Oh, fantastic. Please come to a show. That's awesome. That's amazing. Towards the end of the run. So I'll be going back on the 25th, I think. That'll be one of the last UK shows before we head over and do a couple in Europe and stuff. Awesome. That'd be great to see you again. Very cool. Very cool. Happy New Year to you, Jen. Let's see what else we got here. Train wrecks are above my pay grade, says Johnny. You and me both, my friend. That's why I have a comment. Are fender cleans still the real deal if projected through a Marshall 412? Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I do. I use a 412 and I'm using a fender clean on the clean channel of a PT100, but I'm basically it's like this. Everything's a compromise if you're trying to do it all with one amp, because you can't have a true Fender power section and a true Marshall power section unless you've got an amp with two power sections. Then you might as well have two amps, and then you might as well have two cabs. So unless you're A-Bing, if you're trying to do it all with one amp, there's always going to be a bit of a compromise. So the compromise that is in my amp is that I will not compromise on the the Marshall-y thing, the drive channel. So the PT100 is based around, the power amp is a Marshall. It's basically a Plexi style power amp. And then you got the gain channels, true Marshall-y modded, optimized voice. Then you've got a Fender channel, and so now you're taking a Fender channel, kind of mating it to a Marshall power. EL34s and all the way that it's, and then I'm running into a 412 with kind of Marshall-y sounding speakers, the Celestions, of course. So is it, what does it sound like compared to the true thing? Well, if one time, the last gig I ever did with Chris Cornell, I used two cabinets. I actually had two heads in stereo, I think. I must have been doing a stereo rig. Yeah. And I thought, I'm going to take an open back cabinet. It sounds cool, because we were playing the Roxy in LA. It was a club gig, so private club gig. So I took a open back 212 with kind of 55 hertz G12H30 style speakers in it. So bass cone G12H30 speakers. And then I took a PT212 that had the 75s, the Celestion Creamback 75s. And I blended those two cabs. And it sounded really cool because, you got the the open back and then the closed back, and it just kind of spread around the stage a little bit for the one side. I just thought, I'm just going to try this. I didn't even try it before, I just thought, I'm just going to take this cabinet. And I really liked it, actually. It was cool. That air that you get, out of an open back cabinet, that's something that, if you're just using the closed backs, you're not going to get that. But does it translate into PA? I don't know. I guess maybe a little. I mean, an open back cabinet doesn't sound quite the same mic'd, but you notice most of it on stage where it's doing that spreading thing and all that, So if anything, it's probably a little tighter and a little clearer in a PA having the closed back, Anyway, I digress. How do you feel about smaller 20-watt amps compared to 100-watt? Well, I think they're great for a lot of people these days, and I think they're a nice sort of middle ground between not having an amp on stage, and the way that a lot of them are voiced these days. I mean, people have gotten better about voicing, like I think the PT-15 sounds quite large. I don't think it screams small amp until you start pushing it and it runs out of headroom. It sounds like a big, like the tone. For those out there who have tried them, I'm sure you'd agree. Like on the distortion channel, you wouldn't know that it's like the PT-15. I could tell you it was a PT-100. You'd probably go, oh yeah, in a recording or whatever. Dave's amps are like that too. He's voiced the power sections. They've got EL84s, but they don't, like the JJ Junior or whatever, doesn't sound like other than the volume being reduced and stuff. It doesn't have the tonal character necessarily of what we used to think of as a small amp. They don't sound like cranked Princetons, for example, or whatever, or tweed amps that run out of juice. You can design the power amp to kind of have more headroom and be like basically a bigger, less collapsing kind of sound. You won't get the volume, but you'll have the tone, and the character can be similar to the big amp if you just kind of design it right, so that you're not nailing it, because I think that's where maybe it's the amount of signal going to the phase inverter or something, and putting more gain up front. I don't know what it is, but if you can just imagine that you're not killing I think maybe if an amp has less gain in the front end and then you're turning it up, it's that linear plexi thing, where it's like you're turning it up and it hasn't developed that much gain, but you're already nailing the phase inverter with clean power coming through, and the amp starting to collapse, and the power section is running out of headroom, and then that's that collapsy old amp sound, which is a cool sound. It's just a different sound. It's not the big amp sound. If you design the amp so that it runs the power a little cooler, like I think the PT-15 kind of is that, but you got a little more gain up front and tone shaping and stuff happening in the front end, and then you're running it in a kind of a cleaner power section. You're not running out of headroom right away. You kind of get the big amp sort of sound at a lower volume does that make sense? Out of a lower power amp. So, but anyway, you got to get the right size amp for the gig. I mean, I think for a lot of people, those little Marshalls have been a real, the Studio Vintage. It's a really good sounding plexi, the little Studio Vintage 4-input one. I mean, right hangs there with tonally with like my 50 up there, my 50-watt, basically JMP 72. Back and forth, it just sounded like quieter, and I could balance the volumes to go, well, that's the tone. I mean, it's like it's all there, even though it's a cathode bias kind of power amp, different kind of power amp stuff. It's interesting, They did a good job on them. I've almost gotten 2 hours and 10 minutes, so I got to split you guys. But yeah. Ryan says, look at Jen's comment. I did. I'm stoked she's coming out. That'd be great. Have her as a guest at one of the shows. Wonder where we are that day, Jen. Or maybe I missed one of her comments. Let's see. Oh, sorry, Jen. The live stream almost gave me a tiny heart attack because I thought it was Sunday. That's right. You do your guitar stuff every Sunday morning, and I probably screwed you up. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just decided to not do it on New Year's Eve. Open up my New Year's Eve, open up all of your New Year's Eve, and sorry. Did it at a different time, but it worked out. There's lots of people here, more than I've had on most of my live streams recently. It's interesting. Yeah. Yngwie on Beata was actually a decent watch. It really was. I really enjoyed his interview. If you guys haven't seen it, I thought it was terrific. It was really, really good. So, I enjoyed a YouTube show with you and Tom Bukovac. Was that the one the Tone Talk I did, right? Where I kind of chimed in or whatever. It was great to, I've still never met him in person, but he seems like a great cat. Obviously very talented guitar player. Great musician. Happy New Year, says Keith there with a super chat. Are you a dirt before mod time effects guy? Yeah, generally. The exception is, the Eddie Van Halen flanger first. It is the flanger first, and then the phaser. And then that's all running into the amp. And I love that sound. And I do love the sound of Certain Time. I mean, Univibe, and there's a few effects that are cool. For the true Van Halen thing, you got to run it all in front. And the phaser thing, you got to run it in front. Part of the magic of it is the subtlety of it running in front. If you were to put the phaser post distortion or the flange, it would sound very flanged and phased. And there's something about an MXR flanger that it even cuts through the distortion and sounds still very, it's got a intense sound the way that he uses it, even in front of all that gain. Great sound, but anyway, so there's no hard and fast rules. But generally, yeah, I say always. I mean, I do have a delay in front of my amp. I've got an Echoplex on my board for those occasions when I want to loud tape echo in front of the amp, that's bouncing back and blowing up. So, yeah. Do the other folks at the CRS mind you live streaming on tour? No, never. I mean, they're very supportive of that. We do live streams with them too, like like band fan live stream where we'll get on and answer questions and stuff, because people have questions for Jess or questions for Tim on drums or different questions. So it all feeds. I mean, they're very social media savvy, the CRS folks, and they recognize that it helps drive it. But the big part of, we film the shows often. I don't know if we're doing it this year, probably, but there's always a filming, and then a lot of those videos make it on YouTube, the ones you've maybe seen on YouTube, and that's big. They've got a big YouTube channel. I've got a pretty reasonable YouTube channel as well. So it's like it all feeds, folks that some of you guys are coming to the show, so they recognize that it's good for the goose is good for the gander. Is that a saying? What's good for the chicken is good for the rooster. I should go soon. It's getting silly around here, but I just wanted to, make sure that I got to everybody, because I'm a people pleaser. Remember, I talked about it earlier, and I can't get to everybody. I just can't. Oh, brother. I just passed a question I wanted to get, but what's this? I use a closed back Marshall 412 with a Sir open back 212, and the 212 sounds so much louder on stage, but the mic signal to the board is always lower. It can be hard to balance. Yeah, sounds louder on stage just because it's bleeding everywhere, but if you stood right in front of the closed back, it would beam right in your face and be louder. So yeah, it's a weird thing, but Ralph says the PT15 sounds and feels like a big Marshall. I agree. Yeah. Crazy, says Kevin, how the PT15 sounds with 6v6. I agree. I mean, John did an outstanding job on making it feel and sound like a big ass amp. It's lives in kind of a unique world there, I think, where Dave's amps do that well too, but they've kind of got it figured out pretty good these days, like how to make a smaller amp feel and sound like a big amp, even at a reduced volume. And that's cool, because that's why, the 20 watt thing, I guess the original question from somebody was, how do you feel about the 20 watts? I'm used to hundreds. And I feel like that, if you want the sound, not necessarily the volume, but the sound and the impact and the effect of the big amp, you can kind of get it pretty good these days out of the smaller stuff. The PT15 is a pretty prime example of that, I think. I mean, speaking of the classic rock show videos, not last year, but any of the videos from 2020, for example, that's all the PT15. It's one amp mono, with the matching 212. That's what I used on that tour. It was a very small rig, but it has big amp sound. You watch just playing Thunderstruck or something, one of those videos on YouTube, and it's got a great killer big. It doesn't sound like a 15 watt amp to me. I think it's kind of conservatively rated, by the way. I think he just should have called it the PT20. But anyways, yeah. Anyway, okay. Oh, that's interesting. That's why Jeff Beck had a Marshall and Fender. Yeah, Jeff used to use a little baby Fender, and I think that's what was mic'd, what was in the PA, and it always sounded awesome, right? But then you had the Marshall on stage for the big sound too. Pretty cool. So I know other people that have done that as well. If you guys ever want to try the ultimate solo boost, maybe not ultimate, but very cool way to boost for solos. If you want to get above the band, it's always just like, well, let's put a clean boost in the effect loop, or let's do this, do that. Try kicking in something like a Blues Junior or the aforementioned PV Classic 20, or like some kind of little amp that's got some gain and stuff like that. Just run your big amp and then kick in the little guy for solos only. It's so cool. It's like your sound just jumps, like you get the volume and you get a little more, the gain out of something like a blues. That's what Jeff did. It's like, I don't think maybe he used it all the time, but if you just use it for solos, it's really cool. It just gives you like a jump. Now, we used to do that with Cornell. I mean, that's why I used my Comet. I maybe didn't need to go so big with the amp, but it was like I had a 50-watt amp that I would kick in just for solos, and I'd run it on an attenuator down a couple clicks, so it wasn't crazy loud. But kicking in a whole nother amp just for solos is a great way to talk about dynamic. One amp for clean, another amp for dirty, and then another level with that same rhythm dirty amp for lead, maybe kicking in a pedal at the same time. Ooh, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. Okay. Let's see. A couple more questions here, and then I got to split. I got long, 2 hours and 15. I got to do some other stuff. But so it's better for consistency at a gig if all the amps go through the same cab. What about a Vox through a 412? Well, I'm not saying it's better. I think ultimately the best sound, to be honest, is if you do have the individual appropriate speakers for every amp. But that's what I'm talking about with Cornell. Even I used to have that 3 amp rig. I had a 212 open back for my clean. I had a 412 closed back for my rhythm, and then I had the extra Comet and 212 closed back just for solos that I would kick in on the solos. That's a lot of amps, but it does sound amazing. My cleans were great. I mean, the AC30 style kind of chimey cleans coming out of the combo. Great rhythm coming out of the 412 and but eventually, Sir said to me, why don't you let me try and make you 1 amp and see if you're happy, and we did the 3-channel, and that then pared it all down to basically 1 cabinet. Well, then I got crazy right away and went wet, dry, wet. So I thought, oh, now I can have a center dry 412. And, I was very influenced by Steve Stevens, Eddie Van Halen. I should have maybe realized that I was in a band with another guitar player and that I don't necessarily need 3 412s up there and that it was overkill. But this is the things we go through in life. So anyways, that's a lot. That's a lot of info. There's a couple super chats I got to grab there, and then I'm gonna go. Henrik 300, thank you. Hey, this was a great show. I'm not sure if people would be here for it, and because it's different day and all that. But boy, did you guys ever turn out! Thanks to the Tone Talk guys for sending folks over here as well after Dave's live stream, because I'm sure that was helpful. And Peter Evans, wow, thanks for the super chat, my friend. You're always here every week. Thank you very much. You and Christopher and Ryan and, of course, Ben Coombs and all you guys that come every week. Ibarge. I would say your name like that. I don't know why. But all you regulars, I know I've missed a ton of you, but you guys are the best. Todd Roy, there's another one. Always here. Thank you very much, Peter, for the super chat. Here's to 300 more on Coffee Fun. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, my friend, as well. I sent everybody to Drummeo earlier to go vote for Britt, who's up for Rock Drum of the Year on their Drum Awards, but unfortunately, voting closed, so you don't have to go there. Thanks. It's the thought that counts. All right. Do you offer classes on how to market your music through social media? I really don't know. We're wondering where to start. The best thing I can say is there's groups like this, groups of people, and you can get to know people and stuff. And then you start your own, channel, and you just start to, build your thing, and there's no, I don't know if you guys feel this way or not, but there's no magic bullet. It really is just down to doing the work for yourself, making things that you love and then sharing them. And then somehow, it builds. And I know it's a little different now than when I got into it, because I started on YouTube in 2006. So the early days, so there was way fewer people on YouTube. So I didn't have the competition. It might have been harder for me to get where I am, with as far as folks knowing who you are and stuff on the internet. Had I started now, it probably would be, because there's so many great guitar players and just, but I'm thankful for the way that it turned out and that it's going well. But I just think there's no magic bullet other than to just do it for you. I saw a really great, and it's funny because there's this whole debate on it, but maybe you guys saw this Rick Beato. Sorry, not Rick Beato, Rick Rubin. Both smart guys. Rick Rubin on Instagram talking about creativity and coming up, songwriting basically and stuff. And he was saying, that it's not art, it's commerce. If you're doing it for the people out there, you have to do it for you. He said, the audience should be the last consideration. A lot of people took that the wrong way, I think. But I 100% agree with what he said, because the thing about creativity is, I don't know about you, but I don't want to go listen to somebody do something that sounds like something they think I want them to do. Does that make sense? I want them to do what they do. Like, you want Jeff Beck to be Jeff Beck. You want him to be the best Jeff Beck he can be, which I'm not a part of that, or any of you. We don't have we don't play a role in that. And the way Rick described it was so good. He goes, it's almost like a diary entry. So it'd be absurd to think that people don't like your diary entry. Doesn't even come into play. It's like, it's a diary entry. That's what writing a song is, or being creative. So you do basically the best diary entry you can. You just get good at that musically. And then you somehow, maybe with social media, here's the trick, is somehow you wrap that up in something that is a little bit of a leader to get people interested. So it's not just, here's me and my song. So for me, it's making a video about this, right? And I get to go, what's a cool tune to show off a Univibe? And it gives me a parameter to work within. And that's been how I did it, on YouTube anyway. It's all been these little guitar videos that are about guitar stuff, but I get to write a little song. And I get a little parameter that to work within. So that kind of helps me, because it's like, it's not like you could view it as limiting, or you could view it as, no, you get a little like direction. So the direction is write a song with a Univibe, and now the option anxiety is much less. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm probably going to pick a single coil pickup, because I generally like those with vibes, because the vibe is kind of chewy and gooey, and the single coil helps keep it a little tighter. Might incorporate a fuzz, because that's just a cool sound with one of these vibe style pedals. And I'm going to do something kind of spacey, and I'm not going to play too fast, because then it negates the vibe. I say that in the video for this, by the way. Like, you almost want to play slower, it makes you want to slow down and hold a note, because then the vibe is part of the music and you hear it, right? All these little parameters to work within. And it helps direct you almost like a producer, would, towards something. But I'm doing it for me, I'm going, what's the best vibe song that I can come up with? I guess I'm doing it for Strymon too. They're the, I don't know, maybe they're the artists, and then I'm helping write their song, or they're the artist for coming up with the parameters or something that I need to work within. That contradicts myself a little bit, but basically what I'm saying is I'm doing it for me. Like, I'm not doing it with, well, what do the people out there think that I should do? No, I know what to do with a vibe, and I make the best vibe song I can, in my opinion. I make a little vibe diary entry. So that's all Rick was saying, was that, it's not commerce, it's art. I just like this way of thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not commerce, it's art. And with art, the audience comes last. Sounds harsh, but it's not. Because me as an audience member, I want the artist to do exactly the art that they want to do. I don't, I heard a famous singer once, is very famous, say, I'm not in this for me. I make the music that I think my audience wants to hear. I was out when I heard that. I was like, this is bullshit. I don't want to listen to that person's music. It's contrived, right? At that point, it's super contrived. If you're writing something for someone else, if you're writing something because it's going to sell, if you're writing something because, it's like, I'm not interested anymore. That's not Michael Landau or Jeff Beck or it's just weird, So it's like Pavarotti. No, it wasn't Pavarotti. Yeah, you're making the best art for you, and then that becomes interesting to other people. It's way more a reflection of you then. So you know what I mean. That's what I think. So uh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I agree with Rick Rubin 100%. Quit a band because of that BS, second guessing what the fans want. Yeah, it'll water you down to no end. I mean, do you think Soundgarden did that? There's no way. They didn't do that. That was not the case in that band. They were doing what was cool for them. It's like, yeah. So oh, shout out to Grayson's Toontown. There's a great music store close here in lovely Montrose. Terrific store. They're a Sur dealer, and they got a great repair department with my friend Eric working there. Go in and see them if you need some work done on your guitars. All right. So Jeff says, congrats on 300 safe travels to the UK and good luck with CRS. Thanks. With that, guys, I still see 400 people online, but it's dropping. So that means everybody's tuning out. Thank you to you diehard 400 for being here for the whole show. Had a great time. I'll see you next week. I'll put up a watch page probably earlier in the day that day to say what time I can go live. It might be kind of last minute, or maybe I'll do a post like I did yesterday. On my YouTube, what do they call it? I don't know what they call it, but when you put up a post on YouTube, a text post, which almost nobody ever does, but I did it to let you know when the show would be. Do something like that, and we'll see you from either the rehearsal studio or maybe I'll be at dinner next week at my favorite Thai place in England and have some food while we chat for a little bit. And I'll be all jet lagged and weird. You can see me like that. Awesome. Happy New Year, everybody. Have a terrific and safe New Year's. Be safe. No drinking and driving. No chaos. We don't need any of that. Love y'all. You guys are the best. Happy 300 to you and to me. Have a great week.